It seems so esoteric, man. It seems so particular.
It's so esoteric, and he's the one asking, like, well, what if it was AOC running against the reanimated corpse of Donald Trump, but AOC committed to only being a socialist and not a communist, and the reanimated corpse of Donald Trump committed to being a full fascist with Hitler as his vice president. He was also going to reanimate, but have it infect the body of J.D. Vance by liquid's arm being transplanted. It's like,
I will say, this is the first time that someone has suggested not voting for, like, a real, what I think is like an insanely important race in the general election, but I will just like disagree with that. That is like close.
Well, except for every single lefty.
DSA members.
Yeah, except for the people that you're telling Moo to support, except for every single lefty in the last general election for the president.
I love seeing them get challenged on Fox News. It's funny to watch them crumble and just stupidly smirk along like, yeah, I get rid of prisons. Okay, what do we do with child rapists? We'll figure it out.
Well, you understand that what you're watching there, though, you understand that what's happening there is they're fine with their performances because any DSA person listening to them giving those answers, they agree with them and they support them. The only people that are being hurt by those interviews are moderate Dems because Republicans aren't bringing these people on. Why do you think they're so excited to bring them on? And they don't.
Yeah, I think that we're talking about this like DSA loop, right? The kick them out of the coalition, the line drawing and the tent stuff. And so I've been having a lot of like annoyance with how that conversation is going. It's kind of meta, honestly. And basically how people are basically advocating for things and saying things that sounds like they're trying to do something drastic, but at the end of the day, it seems kind of like mild in terms of the prescription. So kick them out of the party, excise them out of.
Oh man, one thing. Did you watch my stream? Were you watching when Crystal Ball did that interview with the Adam Smith guy?
Adam Smith,
the congressman. He gave her like decent pushback or whatever.
Oh yeah, that guy was awesome.
It's really, really disgusting. That interview is actually crazy. I fucking hate her. I think she's our #1 op right now on the Marxist side. I think she has like a combination of the most reach and the most like vitriolic hatred and attempt to sabotage moderate Dems. Anna doesn't have the reach and she's a fucking goofy person. Nobody takes Anna seriously. But Crystal Ball, I think, still has a decent amount of credibility. I don't know who the fuck watches Anna, or I don't know what is going on over there. That place is crazy.
Yeah, she's
the party. But when we get to it, like there's not any meat and there's not any like teeth to whatever recommendation they have. So that's what's been
okay. So you just feel like people are like saying words and not actually getting out there and saying like what they would actually want and what that means.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. And additionally, that like there's also this feeling that like there's more agreement than the nature of the discourse is letting on. In fact, like I often am looking for what the disagreement actually is, because when push comes to shove and we're like giving different possible scenarios, like would you vote for this person, would you support this person, it sounds like there's more agreement on who the lesser of two evils is. And at the end of the day, like what are we disagreeing about? And so that's the kind of frustrating part. It like the discourse makes it seem like this is hugely antagonistic, oppositional state of mind that I have, or that like there's this huge mismatch, and I'm just like failing to see it.
Okay. Well, I think that you're gonna find it with me. Honestly.
Oh, you're gonna find it with me.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So go ahead, interview away.
Yeah. So like, I saw your tweet at me, and you gave like a couple concrete, like.
Yeah, I said don't campaign for them. Don't donate to them. Don't appease them in Congress and primary them.
Yeah, and I'm just like, is this truly like an elaboration of your preferences? So say, for example, we have a qualifying member of this DSA set. Sometimes it's unclear who is a part of that set. It seems like among those politicians, it wouldn't include people like AOC. It might not include people like Mamdani. So
I 100% walk back everything I said related to AOC. Okay, she is a commie. All right, she 100% is. I'll go over it later. Okay, but she is. Did you look at her scheming? No, I got an email from a DSA member actually.
There's the independent trench, and currently there's like the DSA member type trench. There could technically be like the MAGA trench, but later on, I'll kind of
undercover. No, I think they're just a commie or socialist or whatever. But they point out a bunch of things that I guess we get wrong on stream. Or not a bunch of things.
She's actually my socialist queen, Destiny.
True. I guess I can read it now. I can read it after the interview if you guys want. It's up to you.
Read it now. Fuck it.
Yeah, I hate you. Hey, as a DSA member and also a longtime viewer of your content, I want to point out that you and your friend/co-host seem to be operating based on some misconceptions about the DSA. I'm going to go over some of those here and provide some additional info about internal DSA politics. Number 1, AOC was disowned by DSA. They rated this claim as kind of true, but mostly false. More accurately, AOC is still endorsed by the New York City DSA. She just lost her endorsement from the DSA's National Political Committee, DSA NPC. However, it is important to understand that the DSA is a fairly federated organization. AOC maintains her endorsement from NYC DSA, which is far more important because most organizing within the DSA happens under the command of local chapters. And it's especially important to note that NYC DSA has a somewhat contentious relationship with the NPC. It is the largest, and it's especially important to note that the New York City DSA has a somewhat contentious relationship with the National Political Committee for the DSA. It is the largest and most successful DSA chapter, and it tends to act pretty autonomously. Recently, there was even drama over the NYC DSA treasurer threatening to cut ties with the NPC. You need us more than we need you type shit. Additionally, right now, it is looking likely that the NPC will endorse AOC for the 2028 presidential election as early as summer 2027. If she decides to run, AOC is also still a dues-paying DSA member. So I would say it is not reasonable to say she is not really DSA. If she really felt that she was not aligned with DSA, then she would have canceled her membership by now. Keep in mind that a DSA membership includes a payment recommended to scale with your income, meaning membership comes inherently with material support, going to both the national DSA as well as whatever local chapter you are associated with. This leads me into my second point. 2, AOC is not a communist. This is likely false. This really depends on what exactly you mean by communist. I know you often clarify with terms like Marxist-Leninist, but I feel like you don't necessarily have a conventional understanding of what that term means. What I'm saying here is that AOC has said things that suggest she is a Marxist. Beyond the fact that she supports an organization full of Marxists during her initial run to Congress, she could be seen on news interviews clearly communicating her vision of, quote, democratic socialism, end quote. In one interview, she spoke in terms of phases of history, explaining that capitalism has been necessary and done a lot of good, but is no longer the best way to organize the economy. This might not sound particularly Marxist to most people, but this perspective reflects a core pillar of historical materialism, which is a sociological theory underlying Marxist scientific socialism. And they cite C. Karl Marx's Theory of History, a defense by G.A. Cohen for a detailed explanation. In later interviews, AOC described her vision of democratic socialism as being open to markets. You could take this as evidence that she is a market socialist, which would be quite un-Marxist. However, true market socialists are a genuinely rare breed. Many Marxists accept markets, especially when cooperatized, as a sort of near-term transitional phase. Lastly, you often say that AOC is moderated, but I also don't think that's true. A few years ago, AOC and Bernie Sanders did a podcast episode together. Bernie, the podcast episode 6, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on YouTube. During this podcast, at the time code in the link, AOC recites a quote. Bernie leans in, saying, "And who said that way back when?" AOC leans in as well, smiling and saying, "You tell me, all giddy." A woman named Rosa Luxemburg. That's right. I know this might come off as a weird thing to use as evidence, but watch the clip and you'll see very excited energy in this exchange. I cannot imagine why any non-Marxist or non-communist would be so giddy about Rosa Luxemburg, the co-founder of the Communist Party of Germany. Rosa Luxemburg does have a little bit of a moderate socialist reputation among normies, I think due to her modern association with the Democratic Socialist label. However, in reality, if you actually read Rosa Luxemburg's work, or any work about her, she's actually very closely aligned with figures like Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky, who were her contemporaries and who were remembered generally as communists. You can divide pretty much all post-Marx socialist currents into 3 camps: reformist, social democrat, democratic socialist, or orthodox academic, or revolutionary socialism. Rosa Luxemburg fits right alongside Vladimir Lenin in the 3rd category. In her most famous work, Reform or Revolution, Rosa famously argued that the reformation of Edward Bernstein's evolutionary socialism project would be alone insufficient, and that the revolution will necessarily come through aggressive labor organizing, but she still argued that electoral efforts are necessary, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that was that. And then 3 is, the DSA intends to destroy the Democratic Party. It's a quote from me, and she says, well, not quite. The DSA is full of squabbling caucuses with different ideas on how to approach electoral politics. There are 2 main strategies to be aware of. One is the party surrogate strategy, basically being entirely agnostic about official political parties, treat the DSA as the true party, and just run on whatever ballot line is convenient. And then 2 is the dirty break strategy. This involves using the Democratic Party as a vehicle to push for reforms until third parties are made viable, at which point the DSA would break with the Democratic Party and form its own or a combined party with other socialist organizations. The DSA NPC represents more dirty break caucuses than party surrogate caucuses. However, the party surrogate caucuses are the most influential with most electoral success. Neither of these strategies involves destroying the Democratic Party per se. In a dirty break scenario, the goal is basically to transition to a multi-party system rather than a two-party system, blah, blah, blah. And then she talks a lot about the DSA caucuses and blah, blah, blah. Okay. I didn't know the bit about the local chapters being more influential or more important, I guess, than the national level one. And I mean, I'm pretty sure AOC is throwing up endorsements alongside every other candidate that Bernie and Mamdani are endorsing. So I don't know why I would consider her to be outside the DSA. I think that's probably just shouldn't do it, but what are you going to do?
Query who those individuals are who are part of like the problematic set for whom this prescription applies. And I think that that's like worth going down. But sure. Would you want to pause there?
Yeah. So let me just kind of like frame it like this. Instead of saying like Big Ten or something like that specifically, I know we're talking about DSA. The way I kind of want to define it is like, I've learned a lot about World War I recently, so I'm going to use these terms. Like the theater, that's going to be like everybody possible. They're in the theater. And then in the trenches, I would say that there's like multiple trenches. This is what normally I think people would call tents. I would say there's the Republican trench. There's the Democratic trench. The MAGA trench used to exist, but I feel like the MAGA people dug into the Republican trench, and now it's been completely taken over by MAGA. So now that is now just the MAGA trench. What I'm afraid of is like the DSA members digging from their trench into the Democratic trench and then killing us all and like taking over. And then we would just become one quote unquote big trench / big tent.
I see. So there's kind of like a Borg feeling to what's happened. Is like these people are going to take over. They're going to try to like turn. I don't know if you've seen The Matrix. It's like Agent Smith turning all of the other agents into him. Kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say turn. I would say like they would kill us and take our voices away into the fact of like we don't have a.
They would kill us?
Turn. I would say like
we're moving away. I got rid of the word kill because the YouTube channel just got permabanned, and I don't want to be permabanned using the word kill.
Okay.
Us and take our voices away into the fact of like we don't have a place here anymore, which was our original like quote unquote homeland / trench.
Yeah. So I can respond to that if you want. It sounds like try to like turn. I don't know if you've seen The Matrix. It's like Agent Smith turning all of the other agents into him. Kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say turn. I would say like they would kill us and take our voices away into the fact of like we don't have a place here anymore, which was our original like quote unquote homeland / trench.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So I can respond to that if you want. It sounds like that concern is one of like there's going to be a liberal takeover of the party, and we're going to turn to the left, turn to the right, and all of a sudden we're not going to have a party anymore or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of the time called like the dirty break or whatever.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Mood even had the word from the email. He was emailing me.
Never heard that term, but the dirty break. Okay.
And he's already past Pisco in politics. Yikes.
That is what like, to the extent that is a concern, one aspect of the discourse, which I think often is like not catching, is like we all on Live and Learn agree that we think that is far-fetched as a proposal. That's one of the reasons why I was like pushing Hutch on our episode of Live and Learn to be like, what Wick is saying here is crazy, strictly speaking, because I don't think that we share the fear that the Democratic Party, by which I mean like the major politicians, the Democratic candidates, the Democratic voters, are going to be turned into like this illiberal morass led by Hassan Piker or something. And I just don't know if the concern is that, which is to say that the Democratic Party will become illiberal, will become a Marxist-Leninist vanguard party. I just don't know why you have that fear.
So here's the reason
I just to clarify, and I don't know what Bullets Mr. Moon's going to bite in this debate, but just to clarify, I don't think we're like on the precipice of like some huge ML takeover of the party or whatever. I don't know how long this would take. The fear is that they gain enough influence that they become a voice that we now have to contend with, when I would consider this to be among the things that I just don't even want to really have to talk about in my country. Kind of like I think debating vaccines and whether or not you should be able to mandate certain vaccines or whatever, I think that's a worthwhile debate. Debating whether or not mRNA vaccines reverse integrate into your DNA to turn you into a lizard person is not a debate I really want to be having in my country. Same thing with like, should the president be able to write executive orders to get rid of parts of the Constitution, or should we have a authoritarian single leader in the White House? I don't want to have these debates. Should we become a Marxist socialist country that just demonizes capital owners and unites the workers in a socialist revolution? No, I also don't want it. This is just
have that fear. Is I feel like if we would have went back at this time like 12 years. People would have said the same thing about Donald Trump and MAGA. And now we have very much seen that like the party of the Republicans is now MAGA. There is no real space for middling Republicans to exist anymore. I
also think you do have to consider, like what I really just said there, like you could argue, I don't know, maybe you can argue that I'm actually kind of downplaying things too, because everything I just said would have been said a billion times over about somebody like Donald Trump or the whole MAGA movement. I don't think people realize Donald Trump was a joke right up until, was it 3 candidates left? Did Kasich drop before
there was like
the other 2? It was like Rubio, Cruz. I don't know what the order of everything dropped, but it was like when there were like 3 candidates left is when people were like, oh shit.
I think the final 3 was Cruz and Kasich.
Okay. And then the entire party hard flipped. And it flipped in a way that I would argue a soft Marxist perspective is probably closer aligned in some ways, I think, with like the average Democrat, however far that may be, than the MAGA perspective was aligned with the average neocon. Growing up with neocon propaganda and hearing how important it was for the U.S. to be at war with the world and for the U.S. to, go to Iraq and for how evil the Soviet Union was and Red China and all this, like hearing all this over and over and over and over again, and to see them flip on almost everything, every single value, it was crazy. So, I mean, if such an insanely dramatic shift could happen so fast, and you could argue maybe it wasn't so fast, you could argue that maybe it had been brewing for a bit with the Tea Party and everything else, but like, how many Tea Party people were in the House? It wasn't that many, right? Wasn't it like less than a dozen? It is worth like thinking about that something like that could also happen, especially given like the weirdo populist moment that we are in right now.
There is no real space for middling Republicans to exist anymore. They are being primaried by crazy MAGA people. So this is why I have that fear right now. This, in my opinion, this already happened.
Because it's happened before. Yeah.
Because it just happened.
I think, yeah, Trump has been able to take hold of the Republican Party in kind of an unprecedented way, and in a way where he has like exerts maximal control, such that he's able, even now, even as unpopular as he is now, and honestly, there have been some numbers where he has, 80, 78% approval among Republicans. That's like
90% is what I've seen.
Now,
yeah.
Oh, I've seen recently the polling getting lower, but yeah, usually it's like 90, 91, 92. Yeah, I think usually he commands, even in his weakened state, the ability to scuttle pretty much any Republican primary and just make it go in his favor. And so I understand that it has happened and that this person has control, but there's 2 responses I have. The first is, I don't think the Republican Party has like fundamentally, ideologically, policy-wise, except for its adherence to authoritarianism and Trumpism, changed like where it's going. So I'll give you some example. Tax cuts, wars in the Middle East, deregulation. These are all still things that like the Republican Party approves of and they continue to do, right? Obviously, there's this added factor of the authoritarianism of Trump. Maybe that's what you're isolating for. And I agree, it did happen under Trump. I just don't have an inclination that it's likely to happen with the Democrats. So I'll grant you that it has happened. Maybe that informs your fear, but why is it rational to have that fear as the Democrats? That's what I don't understand. Because I think there are like key differences in how the Democrats operate and uniqueness of Trump that don't like sort of carry forward to the Democratic Party.
Sure. So the reason that I have this fear, and we can talk a little bit about this.
I also wish these arguments would have come out sooner, because it makes the earlier arguments we were having a little bit more clear for me. Because it was hard to read a lot of their arguments before for just not giving a fuck about any of this. But if they would have just said like, well, I actually don't even think any of this can ever really happen in the Democratic Party, then it's like, okay. Well, we should have the argument on those grounds then. Because it makes sense why everything else would just seem kind of like drama farming or not very relevant, or like it makes sense why you would have that perspective here if you don't think that this particular thing is even possible. So I wish we would have just had that argument. I don't know.
Democratic Party.
Sure. So the reason that I have this fear, and we can talk a little bit about this, is I feel like influencers are out there saying absolutely heinous shit about the Democratic Party, and they're kind of like pushing the DSA types to do some sort of like takeover of the Democratic Party. An example of this is going to be Kyle Kulinski. Kyle Kulinski has been out there recently calling moderate Dems like MAGA lights. He has so many crazy tweets. I'm sure that you've seen them. If you'd like, I can start reading some off, but this is a big.
I also, oh shit, I don't have this anymore, but it was in a compilation, I think, of Hassan shitting on like Eastern Europeans and stuff. If you go back and you watch Hassan in the early days of the Ukraine-Russia stuff, I think every single DSA type and every single, just every single DSA type, I think would all have the perspective that Russia was fully justified in their invasion and they would be defending Russia. But because it became such a politically unpopular position, they opted not to. But when you watch the way that he speaks about everything early on, I think he was ready to fully throw his weight behind Russia. I just don't think they were maybe quite ready for it to break out the way that it did, and for Russia to fail, and for it to be so political. It's just a politically untenable position. You can not give a fuck about it, but to be pro-Russia, even in America, is too much.
I agree that he says these terms.
Yeah, and I think it's MAGA lights. He has so many crazy tweets. I'm sure that you've seen them. If you'd want.
Oh, also, I don't know if Mr. Moon, but like calling somebody MAGA light when you have fixated so much on the idea of never voting for the lesser evil. I mean, like, how much more clear can you signal if this person is MAGA light and we're not supposed to vote for the lesser of two evils? Then clearly we can never vote for this person because they're literally, definitionally, MAGA light, the lesser of two evils.
If you'd like, I can start reading some off, but this is a big factor.
I agree that he says these terms.
Yeah, and I think it's disgusting. And for example, to talk about like the trench, I would not say Kyle Kalinske should be in my like Democratic trench. If anything, I think he's like a content creator / a pundit who's going to like talk both sides. So how I would determine someone who I would let in the trench, there's a few things. This isn't even like a whole list. I just came up with it this morning. It's like, how do you self-identify would be one of them. Are you excited about like the party? Have you voted for Democrats when it mattered, specifically during either tough votes in the Senate or during like presidential elections? And the last one that is a non-negotiable is you don't interact with the entire party in a disparaging way during and not during elections. So like you can't do that. You can't just constantly shit on the Democrats and then want to be in the party.
What do you mean by want to be in the party, though?
For the trenches, and I appreciate the lingo and the clarification there, and a lot of that is like totally understandable to me. One of the things that I think frustrates people when I have these conversations is like, I want to do one thing at a time.
Sure.
And so I'm happy to go wherever you want to go. If you want to talk about why this fear seems compelling to you, we can do that. If you want to talk about like this trench notion and who's in it and who's not in it, I'm happy to do that. And
what would you like to talk about? Which one?
Then, I mean, like, I want to first talk about why you're scared that we're going to have a liberal takeover of the Democratic Party. If that's like a genuine good fear that like I should have, I want to be moved by that. I want to be motivated to be fearful if it is a rational fear. I'm happy to go down also like the prescriptions of how to like prevent that fear and who to apply it to, which just seems like that's the conversation, the kind of criteria you laid out just then is like, okay, we've established a fear. These are the people who are responsible for it, and this is how we tackle them, right? That's the kind of like tripartite system I could see is like establish that it's a worthwhile fear, then who is responsible, then what to do. So I would want to start at like, is this even something we should be scared about?
Sure. I feel like I've established that the fear is reasonable. So now we can talk about like who is causing me.
Wait, in virtue of what is it reasonable? I don't understand why it's reasonable to like.
Well, because we just saw MAGA completely take over the Republican Party, and now we have another type of people. I mean, we have another whole group of people, like the DSA specifically, who are trying to steal literally election seats in a primary.
Yeah, so like that, I feel like proves too much. If
I just want to say here, when I say steal election seats in a primary,
susceptible to the takeover.
Oh Jesus!
Oh, sorry, pause. That was me. I just want to say here, when I say steal election seats in a primary, a lot of people aren't happy with me using the term, but what I mean behind that is like these people are running as Democrats when they are DSA members. They are not Democrats, and they are just using the name. That's it.
As well, it happened to the Republicans. I mean, that will be true in 10 years. That'll be true in 20 years. I mean, like, it'll be true. It's true of other organizations, perhaps. I just don't know. Like, okay, so just merely by the fact that it happened to MAGA, that's enough for you to think that it's a justified fear. Nothing else. Just the fact that there was a Trump takeover. Now Democrats are also susceptible to it, and it's there's at least a decent chance that it'll occur.
So enough. One, yes. Two, there's also other things happening. Okay. The other things would be like DSA members primarying moderate Democrats inside the bluest regions and then starting to steal seats. Yes.
Okay, that's like okay. So the second piece of evidence, which is kind of like, well, the DSA candidates are winning. I don't think that's evidence. If
our winning is pretty far-fetched. They're winning in a few seats, but yeah,
in the primaries.
Yep.
Yeah, but the fact that you're like cagey and limiting it to the very, very blue places, I think there's already recognition that there's limited appetite for this kind of expansion into more purple or competitive districts. Like the mere fact that you're having to call out and be like, well, have they been that successful? I think that it like shows that we all think that there's like a limited ability for them to expand into places where they're not like plus 30 blue seats. And so why isn't that like an alleviating aspect of where the evidence is occurring? Like the fact that the DSA members are only being successful, not in like Virginia in a statewide race, not in like New Jersey in a statewide race, but really just in like these super, super blue districts. Why isn't that like calming?
It's currently happening in Wisconsin. I'll answer your question and then I'll say something else. Why isn't it calming is because I feel like...
New assignment if you're ready. What the fuck happened in Wisconsin? Were the Dem candidates like really that bad? I don't know. Or did the woman, was there some other ad or breakout moment for her or what? Like, I'm
feeling
super
like
don't
she's an
get it.
alien and completely mind controlled all of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
not sure.
There are people that I look at that I super disagree with. Even the Chevalier or whatever. There's some of these people I look at it. It's like, I mean, I get it at least. It's like with Plattner. Like, I get it, right?
There's
Even though
some
I
charisma
think
there. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I don't understand her thing at
No
all.
clue.
Like, this is like, I super don't get it. I'm so confused. I don't know, man.
It's growing. This is like the first time we're.
Oh, that is weird. I don't know how much that affected the other Dems. The like these moderate Dems that would like drop out of the race and then come back. What? I don't know. This is fucking retarded, but maybe that had more of an impact than I'm giving it credit for. Thinking about it. Yeah.
It's currently happening in Wisconsin. I'll answer your question and then I'll say something else. Why isn't it calming? Is because I feel like it's growing. This is like the first time we're starting to see real DSA types who have contempt for the Democratic establishment and the Democratic Party starting to actually win seats. And it's not going to be like a all or nothing in a single election where the DSA is going to completely take over and it's going to be over. I feel like it's going to be like a slow walk, and you need to notice and stop this at the beginning so it doesn't become like a boulder rolling down or it's like a piece of snow rolling down the hill and becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
I see. So it's kind of like you want to kill it in its crib. So maybe right now it's not at the point where it's extinction event precipice.
Yep.
But like you could easily see it start to gain momentum. Okay.
Yes.
Then I mean I don't necessarily agree, but let's say I grant that.
Sure.
If the candidates are well, two things. The first is you mentioned the candidates hate the Democratic establishment and the Democratic Party. I'm going to say something perhaps controversial.
Sure.
That's like a majority view now among Democrats. Like the Democratic Party hates the Democratic establishment. The Democratic Party, and by here I just mean the members, the voting people, sorry, not the members, the voting registered members of the Democratic Party. And so that's part of the reason why there's a rejection of people like Janet Mills, why some of these endorsements don't seem to have the effect that they used to have in races. I mean, you have a sitting governor in the case of Gretchen Whitmer endorsing Haley Stevens, no noticeable bump from that. You have big party luminaries endorsing Janet Mills, no noticeable bump from that. There seems to be a huge rejection of the Democratic establishment and I don't know, traditional party leaders from the Democratic voters themselves. And if you look at approval ratings, it's like net negative if you ask a Democrat regarding their own party. And so I think that, honestly, there's a compatibility with being fed up with the quote unquote Democratic establishment, whatever that means, and not being authoritarian, not being a liberal, not being a team player, right? Like if it's representative of some wide swath of Democratic voters to take this kind of like negative attitude to the Democratic establishment, then in what sense is that an indication of illiberalism as opposed to just being fed up with the powers that be?
Well, I guess hold up. Okay.
So why are Dems upset right now, in your opinion?
A multitude of reasons, but if you ask them from the polling that I've seen,
I'm asking why do you think that they
haven't? I'm telling you, I think multiple reasons based on polling data. It's a descriptive question about like why people think something, right?
Sure. Yeah. So
why Democratic voters think something.
What are some multiple reasons, I guess?
Yeah. So I think one of the big ones, if you look at polling, is like they don't think that their Democratic leaders are fighting back against Trump enough. They don't think that the Democratic leaders are doing enough to stymie Trump, doing enough to push back against Trump. That's one of the big answers that if you ask them why they don't like the Democratic establishment. They also think, if you look at like people like Ezra Klein talk about this, they think the Democratic leaders aren't effective. If you read Abundance, right, he almost makes an argument, Ezra does, that this is like rational given some failures in, for example, in California, brings up trains and on the slowness of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. Again, I might have my disagreements, and I do, honestly, with Ezra on some of these examples. I'm just saying that that's the impression from a lot of voters. And maybe it's rational, maybe it's not, but I think it's compatible both with, okay, they're just a liberal and they hate us because they hate us or something like that, but also that they just have the intuitions that a majority of the Democratic voters do, namely that Democrats are weak and ineffective and not pushing back hard enough against Trump.
So
I don't understand what necessarily how that ties into like whether or not they're illiberal or is because and then them having issues with the Democratic Party. Like I don't know what that connection even has to do with anything there. Also, I don't know if Moon's going to get into it, but I feel like I mean, that is true. They feel like we're not fighting, but maybe I just don't listen. And to be fair, I don't listen to a lot of DSA rhetoric or their ads or whatever, but from the little I've heard, I don't hear them talk about Trump that much. If they talk about Republicans, it's always in the context of both sides are bad. It's always in the context of like the Epstein class or all political people, the duopoly, the whatever, and then the billionaires. I never hear them go after MAGA at all. So this idea that DSA has correctly identified that the establishment Dems aren't going hard on Trump enough. I mean, that could be a point, but they don't talk about going hard on Trump, do they? Unless I don't know. I just don't see that very much. Yeah, and then the other disappointment, I don't know if we'll get to it for polling data, is most people, I think, still have the perception that for some reason the Democratic Party is like too far left for them. And so how is the DSA coming up and then being even more left? Is that actually helping us? Oh, and then the final thing too is something that's annoying is you ask somebody, he's doing that thing where you say that a certain thing isn't happening or that you don't believe in or agree with a certain thing, but then you start justifying that certain thing where it's like, we don't have to worry about the DSA taking over the Democratic Party or doing something in some liberal way or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, why do you feel that way? And it's like, well, let's look at it. Doesn't everybody like hate the Democratic Party anyway? And it's like, well, sure. But wait, so then you do agree with them trying to take it over, but you think them taking it over is a good thing or strategic or whatever else? Like, and then also there's a difference between like, if you hate a thing, like, why do you hate the thing? Like, do you hate the thing because you are ideologically opposed to it or because you think that it's ineffective? Like, those are two different things as well. Like, if somebody says like if somebody were to say like, I hate the Democratic Party right now because I wish we had better fighters in Congress or whatever. Yeah, sure. But if somebody's like, I hate the Democratic Party right now, I think they're trying to slow roll us with more capitalism when we really need is a Marxist revolution. It's like, okay, well, we're not on the same page, But
I understand the reason.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just feel like those are two stories you can tell, right? Like you can tell a story which is the majority of Democratic Party, slight majority. I'm not saying everyone, but the majority.
And then I'll also say, and I've said this a million times, but nobody cares. I'll also say that like the reason why the Democratic Party brand I think is so unpopular is also because it's just nobody can be nice about Democrats. Everybody has to hate the Democratic Party. Democrats hate the Democrats. Obviously, the DSA and the far left fucking hate the Democrats. They talk about it all the fucking time. So, like, when every single person in your party is, like, dedicated to shitting on you, I mean, it's not really much of a surprise at all that everybody has a negative opinion or two. Like,
majority of the Democratic Party doesn't like the Democratic establishment because they're turning a liberal, or you can tell the story of like they disapprove of the establishment because they don't feel that their party is effective. They don't feel that their party is pushing back hard enough. Those are two different stories. I'm like, why pick a liberal one? It seems like much more convincing to me that they're just pissed that their party's like feckless. That's the word I see like bandied around.
Hold on. Destiny, given it's not likely the DSA will take over the Dem Party or rule the country, what is the impact they can have if they splinter the Dem Party aside from enabling MAGA? What do you mean it's not likely they will take over? Them getting, 20 seats in the House, I think, could, in some ways, could be catastrophic for policy in the future. So they don't need to take over the whole party to have an outsized effect. Also, them being able to constantly threaten safe blue seats where we would like to seat our party leadership is also very worrisome. Remember, one of the reasons why AOC got the pushback she did from the establishment Dems in the beginning was because I'm pretty sure, I would have to go and look at who it was, but when AOC won her election, I think that was a seated Democratic Party leader. I don't remember who it was, minority or some House position. Somebody can, was it Crowley? I don't remember. Yeah, that's so, I mean, like there's other bad things that can happen besides like a total and complete takeover of the party and then the country into an authoritarian hellhole,
Sure. I just don't, so I don't think throwing the baby out with the bathwater is a good way to do this and to jump over to just being like basically the DSA. I think that we can fix this in other ways. I will say the people who don't think the Democratic leaders are fighting back against Trump right now and like being quote unquote effective, it's like, well, what are they supposed to do right now? The one thing I'll grant you is I think that we do have weakish leaders who need to be out there because they don't have anything to do. They should be on Fox News. They should be on CNN. They should be on every social media platform, and they should have a coherent, here's our Democratic platform. Here's what we're pushing for. 100% I agree with you, but I'm just not willing to say like, okay, we need to burn it all down because our current establishment isn't
become
doing
Maoists. Yeah. I'm not in favor of that either. I'm not trying to give you like that it makes sense that some of the harsh feeling is as harsh as it is. I'm
because our current establishment, 100% I agree with you, but I'm just not willing to say like, okay, we need to burn it all down because our current establishment isn't
become
doing
Maoists. Yeah. I'm not in favor of that either. I'm not trying to give you like that it makes sense that some of the harsh feeling is as harsh as it is. I'm like pretty critical of some of Ezra's examples, especially as it relates Biden in abundance. But although I think he's more on point with people like Obama and a few others in his examples, I'm not trying to like rationalize this opinion from Democrat voters. I'm just trying to say that it's a truth. And so when you see people who are railing against,
so do you want democracy? It seems to me your neoliberal ends would be better served under a technocratic government. I don't know whose chat you think you're in or what, but okay.
Democratic establishment, it's plausible to me, in addition to perhaps other ideological things, that this is an indication of where people are. Like, we can read polls and we know that people are upset with the powers that be. And so whether it's rational or not, whether like Schumer can do anything else other than he's doing, whether Hakeem can do anything else than what he's doing, whether we're willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater, it's just like consistent with me that the appeal that many of these people are getting is because of these vibes from Democratic voters, as opposed to like showing any sympathy towards illiberal tankyism. In fact, my impression is with a lot of these DSA candidates that they get excoriated in the media, especially traditional media, for like prison abolitionism, and they have to like walk away from them. If anything, I feel like the pressure is for them to disavow those previous views. I mean, Mamdani disavowed Hassan's statements on 9/11. I just saw this. I'm now forgetting her name. The presumptive nominee in Wisconsin. She's like saying, "I'm not in favor of getting rid of the police right now."
I believe. Yeah. Miss Hong.
Hong. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. Miss Hong. I was almost super racist there, but yeah. So like, it really just does seem that the appetite among Democratic, and I could be wrong about this, voters isn't for tankyism. It's for something fresh. It's for something new. And to the extent that there are pressures, it's to like sort of curb the ideological excesses.
So
that's why I'm not as concerned.
While that might be their appetite, I'm not concerned that the Democratic voter, that's their appetite. I'm concerned that the people who are now feeding these Democratic voters are trying to backstab us.
Yes.
And I think that they kind of are sometimes even open with it.
Yep.
Chevrolet is literally saying, I'm a democratic socialist. They're all saying that they're DSA members. They're not Democrats. They want to seize the media production. It's called abolish the police, abolish borders, etc. I'm not concerned about the Democratic voter. I think we can message better. And sorry, I'll even say this. We can message at all. The Democrats don't have any good messaging right now and get those people back. My issue is that these people start like making their headways in, and yeah, Ossoff's very good. I haven't seen anything from Hakeem Jeffries. I am for him being out as speaker. I think Chuck Schumer might be a little too old.
AOC went on Majority Report. Oh, wait, when? When did that get published? Oh, boy.
So he might need to go. I'm for younger people taking over, and the Dems need to have an actual stance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's all great and compatible with everything I'm saying. Like, you feel consternation at Hakeem. You feel consternation, or you think that Schumer might be too old. You think the messaging sucks. You don't like the current vibes, right? And
correct.
You're not a socialist.
Nope.
And even though that like something like 32% of Democrats self-ID as democratic socialists, I just want to be clear. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist.
Do you identify as a Democrat?
They just. Yeah. Okay. I used to be more like I'm an independent, but I've been registered Democrat since the 2016 election, where I voted for Hillary Clinton, and probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
voted for Hillary as well. Yeah.
In retrospect, yeah. So all I'm trying to say is like there's something to this like moment, I'll grant you, of the Democratic Party, that they're like sick of their old guard, but I don't think that they're sick in ideological terms. I think that they're sick in terms of feelings of inadequacy, feelings of weakness, feelings of fecklessness, feelings of age, and the proof of that is like who are the people like leading the polls among the Democratic potential nominees for president? Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg,
Ossoff.
John Ossoff a little bit, and AOC. All of these people are palatable, right? All of these people are people like you would feel comfortable with, right? Even like AOC, people get mad at me when I bring up AOC in many of these conversations because she like doesn't count, because she was, even though in her past, right, she said, hey, we need to abolish prisons. She had all these cringe things too. That's why IRI is also someone who agrees with me. IRI and I don't like diverge on this. Somehow like I get attacked more than IRI on this position. Maybe it's because I'm more, I'm seeking out like some of these more contentious conversations, and IRI is not. But IRI says the same thing. Like, we can use some of this tackling fuel, if you will, some of the vibes, and it doesn't need to go in a particular ideological space. And to the extent that there's ideological incompatibilities, they fall in line, or we primarily fire them. And so like, I don't see what the issue is.
The issue is that these people are willing and ready to stab you in the back, in my opinion.
Who?
Specifically,
I hope they get to the is there no value that Democrats have, or do we have no principled positions? When I say that, I just mean like, is there nothing that identifies you as a Democrat? There obviously is, because you could very easily ask some test questions, right? Which I had before, right? Okay, well, let's say that this exact same thing was happening, but there was kind of like can you ever say a National Socialist Party? And they did believe in socialism, but they were also heavily nationalistic and quite a bit xenophobic, right? Would we welcome them and then make all these exact same arguments? Well, they're identifying a moment. Yeah, they said they're not happy with the Democrats, but a lot of people aren't happy with the Democrats. Well, they're popular and they are winning in some areas, but I mean, they're probably not going to take over the whole party. Like, would you make these exact same arguments? I feel like the answer is no immediately, and then they would point to some huge value difference. But then I would ask, well, then do you not think you have a value difference with like Marxists? Or I don't know.
I believe Chevalier. I don't think she's going to vote meaningfully well with Democrats, and I think she should be primaried. My position right now, if you're going to ask me, well, you're not asking me, I'm going to say on the House, is that House seats for DSA members, we can give those up. The Senate, I would vote for anybody with a D next to their name right now. I will. And
I'm going to push you in a second.
Sure.
And just remember this moment, because I don't think that you're going to grant that because I think you're going to say that the House of Representatives is incredibly vital. And
the House of Representatives is vital, but I think there's only like 3 or 4 DSA members right now. I'm more concerned about the Senate and the Supreme Court nominations.
Yeah, I would also, like, in the current era, want the Senate more than the House. I'm not doubting you on that. And I agree, like, just because of it's a smaller chamber, the Senate, like, every one seat matters more. But I'll just give you the hypothetical, right?
Sure.
Like, who would you rather win? a DSA member or an average MAGA Republican in a House race?
Fuck. It sounds weak to refuse all hypotheticals, but like I think there has to be at some point a refusal to engage in this hypothetical anyway, because you're actually changing the nature of the conversation at this point. We would be having a far different conversation. I think the whole country would look way, way, way differently if we were having competitive races between DSA members and conservatives. All of the complaints that we've levied so far in kind are that the DSA people are eating the party from the inside out, are doing things that's hurting us with moderate voters, are doing things that's going to make it harder for the Democratic Party to win future elections. But all of those arguments kind of sort of start to, those arguments at least disappear completely if you have DSA members running against Republicans and being competitive in like moderate seats. Well, now you can't argue that they're hurting you against the Conservative Party because they're running and competitive in places against conservatives. And now you can't argue that they're hurting you by only trying to primary your deep blue leadership seats. It seems like they can primary and win in multiple places. So like this hypothetical, I think actually like fundamentally changes the nature of how we would view the DSA if this were to be a thing that would actually happen. But
Currently, right now, I would rather an average Republican win, because I don't want the DSA to gain ground inside of the House of Representatives and then further legitimize their like absolutely horrible.
What core democratic values do you feel socialists lack? I think the ability to hire an employee or to start a business or to choose what you want to study or to choose where you want to live, to make these types of choices, I think are somewhat fundamental to concepts of liberalism, of classical liberalism, of being a liberal, of the United States, and the idea that there's going to have to be some kind of like governing body that's like dictating to people, you know, basically how they have to live their lives for the purpose of the state or whatever. It gets, I don't know, it's not cringe.
Side of the House of Representatives and then further legitimize their like absolutely horrible place.
Okay, and that doesn't apply to Graham Plattner because it's the Senate.
Yes,
because you said
it would not apply to Plattner because it's the Senate. No, any DSA member I would love in the Senate
against Susan Collins. Okay, if you knew that the House of Representatives, the margin there was 1-2 seats, would you prefer a DSA member to win a seat against an average Republican?
Yes.
To keep control of the chamber.
Yes.
Okay, what I'll posit to you is there's like these margins are incredibly narrow. And
they're narrow.
It seems bizarre to me that
they're narrow, but I don't think they're 1 to 2 seats narrow. I think the Dems right now have like a 95% chance to win the House, and I'm willing to round with some New York City seats, like 2 of them.
But like, to what end, right? If it doesn't matter, in other words, here's what basically you're saying, I'll prefer a MAGA Republican in a House race.
You said an average
DSA
Republican
member when it doesn't.
But it doesn't matter. Granted, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, like average Republican, you think is a MAGA Republican
at this point? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you're basically saying, I will.
Wait, did he just do a little tricky do there? Did I misunderstand earlier, where it sounded like Mooten said he would prefer like a moderate Republican? And now he's saying, well, a moderate Republican.
Earlier I said an average Republican, but earlier I had also granted that I think Trump has taken over the party. So at this point, any average Republican would be like a MAGA person. So it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, yeah. If somebody,
tricky.
Yeah, if somebody were to ask me, like, would you prefer like this person versus a moderate Republican? I know that the average Republican right now is an unironic fucking Trump dick suck, crazy fascist enabler. But I wouldn't like instantly like think of that as like a moderate Republican. That just wouldn't be the vocabulary I would think of. So that's a little tricky, but okay.
Prefer the average MAGA Republican against a DSA candidate for a House seat only when it doesn't matter, right? Only when like it's not in question whether the seat's going to go one way or the other, only when the margin in the House is irrelevant. And so how much teeth does it have? You're basically saying it only matters to have this preference when it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe that currently right now we have the wiggle room to play with. So yes, I would rather not have DSA members in the House of Representatives, further moving them towards like being a legitimate part of like the Democratic Party.
I don't know if Mr. Mooten will ask Pisco questions after, but like every single proposition that Pisco gives, like I highly encourage you, if you ever want to test your mind, is you just consider things from alternative perspectives. I know that sounds cliche, like, oh, consider from another perspective, but like really think about it. If you were a DSA member, or if you were somebody who was trying to subvert a party or to capitalize on the weaknesses of a party, like who would you want to work with? Like Pisco is like the perfect person to corrupt. He's giving infinite leeway for these people to be as subversive as they want, to engage in whatever rhetoric they want. They're always still considered to be on the same team. You still grant them Senate seats, House seats, whatever. I guess you can kind of sort of fight against them, but you're never willing to cast them out of the tent. Meanwhile, the other side is always willing to go all or nothing with you, meaning that if you're a voter and you're kind of like torn in the middle, it's like, okay, well, one side is all or nothing and the other side is willing to, moderate. Maybe we have to go with the all or nothing people to bring them along, or I don't even know what that plays out as in the future. But Pisco is like he gives you the perfect position if you want to do a party takeover. He would be the perfect person to have on the opposing team to take over that party.
Quote unquote, because they don't run as DSA members, they run as Democrats.
So should we expect for you to endorse AOC's challenger in her House race in Queens?
AOC was kicked out of the National Democratic Party.
But she wasn't endorsed by the National Party.
No, she was kicked out, I believe. They said that they were kicking her out if she doesn't.
I was wrong.
That's okay. He doesn't know, so
sorry,
you're fine.
the DSA is what I meant.
Got him.
So
I think.
Yeah, so the National DSA, I think, rescinded their endorsement of AOC. And so she's not included in the set because of that?
Well, no. I mean, if there's a better candidate that I feel comes that's a Democrat, I will want them in the primary. That's what primaries are for, right?
No, but in the general, right?
Oh, in the general, obviously
because
AOC.
All these are in the general. You're having obviously AOC, but if she had been endorsed by the National DSA, which I think they're going to re-endorse her, by the way, if they haven't already, would that change?
AOC's also been inside of the actual Senate, and I think we at this point.
Did you see Luke Beasley's video calling out Jank? I haven't. If he did, that's good, I guess. But like, Jank and Anna are so far gone. I don't know if anybody even considers these people. Like, I feel like they've both done their "why I've left the left" like 15 times.
Know how she votes and everything like that, so it would change.
House?
Sorry, yes, I misspoke. Yeah, in the House. Yeah, so yes, I would still endorse AOC over a MAGA Republican.
Lander hasn't been endorsed.
Also, don't call him MAGA. It's MAGA. Okay.
By the DSA explicitly.
Sure.
He was one of the three that Mamdani endorsed. You would endorse him over a MAGA Republican.
I got to go read Lander's. I have to read what his, I guess, views are specifically and see. I don't have the answer right now.
Okay. But it's plausible to you that Lander might be someone that you support, even though he like was an insurgent against Dan Goldman. Dan Goldman, an effective member. He pretty effective in, especially cross-examining MAGA Republicans in hearings and stuff.
It's plausible.
That is okay. Is it plausible to you that you would support? Well, I guess El Sayed is the Senate, right?
Yep. El Sayed has got my full support, and I will campaign for him if he wins.
Fuck that.
I will go door knock.
Hell no.
And Hong?
Fuck no.
Hong in Wisconsin? Absolutely not.
Yeah, for state governor.
No.
You don't think that the governor's mansion in Wisconsin is vital? I mean, this is a swing state. The governor runs elections there. You're going to put that in the hands of a MAGA Republican?
That's a pretty powerful seat to give to a crazy lady. I know what a Republican will do. I don't know what a crazy DSA member.
I mean, we've seen things that state MAGA governors have done in places where Trump has tried to with elections. They're way more sympathetic to those efforts.
My goal right now is to kill.
And here's the other thing. I said this before, and I'll combine these two again. I would feel so much differently about this conversation if any moderate Dems could push against the left. It seems like none of them can. Or if any of the far left people would regularly attack MAGA. I feel like I never hear them talk about that either. Like, it's like it's not even like a crossfire. It's like a moderate Dems are against the wall, and then MAGA is over there shooting at us, and the far left is over here shooting at us. It's like, Jesus.
Basically the evil baby before it becomes a monster who kills my party.
And that would mean wouldn't that mean helping a Republican?
Wait, he said Cenk is part of the coalition. Wait, Luke Beasley did? No shot.
Can win the governor's mansion in Wisconsin over this
No,
candidate?
I'm just not going to spend any time there.
But you would prefer the Republican to win?
Would I prefer the Republican to win over Hong? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll grant that.
Isn't that an endorsement?
No. I can prefer somebody to win and not endorse them.
Well, I just view an endorsement as like a statement of support about who your preference is to win an election.
I disagree.
And maybe you mean something different by endorsement?
I think the average person would think that an endorsement is you actually pushing for the person and saying that this person is someone you want to win.
Well, I just don't understand. If this is such a big threat, why not endorse him? I mean, like, if you really want to stand by your principle that this
I would
person
never endorse a
support
Republican.
your own party. Just because of, like, the signaling effects it would send?
No.
Because it's a different thing, right? Like, I really don't want this person to win because I think it'd be bad for our party. So, like, I don't, whatever, But it's like, why would you endorse another person if you feel like they don't at all share your views? Like, these are different things. These are different types of things.
I would just never endorse them.
It looks bad?
No, they have diametrically opposed views to me.
But like, why wouldn't you canvass for them? Why wouldn't you? If you want this,
because
result,
there's many
you say it's
other
your
places
express
that I can
preference.
go and I can canvass for it. I only have so much time.
Okay. But if you could snap your fingers, you would make the MAGA Republican win the governor's mansion, right?
Currently, this year, yes, over a DSA member, yeah.
Okay. I think that's brutal to hear, man. And if anyone thinks that that's like a majority opinion on Live and Learn, maybe that you guys think that Live and Learn is tanky and Learn or something or whatever,
no.
Or you think that that's a majority opinion among Democratic faithful? I mean, if we're going to go to the race in Wisconsin, it's going to be like 90+% vote for the Democratic nominee. This is the aberrant view. This is the the view that's a minority, not the view that like we should support the nominee in the Wisconsin governor's race, which enforcement of state law in Wisconsin, a state that has been targeted specifically by Trump for election, interference and shit. That is up in this age. We don't want to play with that.
I just don't want the DSA to come and kill my party, man. I don't know what to tell you. And I believe that this will...
We cannot ask for anything also, by the way. You are never allowed to ask for fucking anything. You cannot ask that, like, I don't feel comfortable that, like, the DSA is openly expressing hostility towards my entire political party and that every single DSA, like, cheerleader person in the media is just openly talking about how gleeful they are to overthrow all of my candidates and that they all need to be bullied to take their positions and that they're going to purity test us on, like, things like fucking... on like whether or not anybody has like any corporate money or any APAC money or whatever. Like these are like you can't ask for anything. You have to concede that they're going to act in the most egregious way possible towards you and your party, and that's it. You just have to deal with it. That's it. And then they get to demand undying fealty, despite the fact that they didn't even fucking support Kamala Harris. But okay,
won't be a long-term thing if they're quote unquote now. It's like it's a thing that you got to do now. Hopefully at the end of...
I mean, but she was... But if she was running for the Senate, you would vote for her.
Yes, because the Supreme Court is the most important thing in the world. Yeah. If Trump gets another 2 seats, like this whole thing's cooked. Like it's GG.
Some of the most important pushbacks against the MAGA regime have been on things from state actors. Gavin Newsom on redistricting. Abigail Spanberger, when she, in many different ways, including the attempt to do the gerrymander with the amendment that failed because of judges there. Mikey Sherrill, governors like Pritzker. It's the difference between having cooperation with ICE and not. It's the difference between having cooperation with National Guard deployments and not. It's the difference between suing the federal government and not suing the federal government. I mean, this is like a massive, huge deal in one of the most consequential swing states. And
where was this idea for the leftists? Why didn't they feel this way? Why did it all come? Why every single thing you're talking about, they don't talk about? They talk about Israel, Palestine, Israel, Palestine, Israel, Palestine, Israel, Palestine, Israel, Palestine. That's it, right? If all of this shit is so fucking important, why go convince them of that?
Well, he's just gonna say that they were bad.
I know, but I hate these. This is the thing that I don't know if we had any of these spots where we were playing Ark. This is the number one thing I would fight with Lauren about. Whenever she would criticize me and say that like, oh, like I sometimes I think you're too hard on some of these conservative guys. Like I know these people, like they're not all bad, blah blah blah, and I think that your rhetoric is too harsh, or whatever. And every single time she would go down this like line of dialogue, I would always demand. I would say, show me your messages to any of your friends where you say, hey, I think your rhetoric about this is a little bit fucking unhinged and I'll take you seriously. But until then, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you have to say about anything that I say about any of these people because you guys never critique them. You never critique your own. It's always just criticism for our side and that's it. Like, I was going to say if I saw Pisco giving this criticism to lefties, I might feel differently about it. But I think, didn't Pisco basically say that no, like none of them allow him on their shows to like do any of this harsh pushback? I don't think it'll ever happen. Like if they're there, Pisco's just there in like a supportive role. That's it.
If you're willing to give that up to a MAGA Republican in this context, I just don't think you think MAGA is that bad or that Trump is that bad.
And Trump are on
but the reality, and he'll get to it. But like you don't think. It sounds like you don't think they're that bad because you're willing to incorporate a group of people into the party who literally didn't give a fuck whether or not Trump won over Harris. Hello?
Way out currently, the DSA, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, or on their way in, they're trying to absolutely steal my party just because I think Trump's really bad.
Do not underestimate your opponents, man.
I'm going to say that.
Which ones? Yeah,
you, man. You shouldn't underestimate the DSA.
Well, I'm afraid there's a track record, in my opinion, of Trump and MAGA destroying this country and doing authoritarian and when they get onto power, I don't see that track record among...
Okay. God, I don't know why we waste so much time on irrelevant shit. Like, just fast forward to this part of the conversation. You don't think communism is that bad, or you don't think any of this is really a threat, or you don't think any of it matters that much. Like, just get to that part, and then you can just have that conversation, because everything else is a waste of time.
DSA endorsed governor nominee. Like, it feels insane that we're having this conversation.
Like, we also don't have a track record of Nazis doing bad things in the United States of America. So why not give a Nazi party or a Nazi sub-party? Why not give that a try, right? We haven't had an actual Nazi party take over in the United States anywhere. So, why not?
And maybe, yeah, I would endorse the more moderate candidate in a primary context in Wisconsin. But to say you prefer the MAGA Republican in the age of Trump, in an age of like where they're literally trying to fight with elections,
I feel like the DSA is an absolute existential threat to the Democratic Party, and I would like it to be over ASAP versus like continue with what I feel is to come. So yeah, I'm willing to lose one governor race and a few House seats this election in order for hopefully it to be completely stomped out. That's correct.
And why do you think that would occur? Because why would this achieve that result?
It would show that they're completely unelectable.
So you think if she...
I like how he has to consider that, like, that is true. Like, El Sayed losing... if El Sayed wins against Stevens and then loses in the general, and if Hong emerges from the primary the winner, if she hasn't already, I think she will, and she loses against Rogers... it will hurt the DSA. Like, that will hurt. Because it's like, okay, well, you guys had your moment in New York City, fine. Or in New York, fine. But outside of that, you're actually measurably hurting the Democratic Party. But you know what's going to happen, if people in chat aren't having it already, is they're just going to blame then people like Mr. Mutnermeer, moderate Dems.
Loses this election.
Yeah, but
the
they were going to do this either way.
If
so
enough DSA members...
Wait, what? Sorry. Oh, that was real Mutin talking?
Yeah, that was me. I was just going to say, they're going to do this either way, so fuck them.
Okay.
That they're completely unelectable.
True.
So you think if she loses this election, the DSA is going to go away, or if enough DSA members lose the general this time? I mean, most of these candidates who are, and again, we'll have to inquire a little bit more.
I hate when you use a binary to pretend like you don't understand what a person is saying. Like, I think that if Sherry calls Alice a bitch, I think that a lot of her friends are going to look at her differently. Oh, so you think that Sherry is going to lose every single friend she has then if she calls Alice a bitch? You think she's going to lose every single friend she has? It's like, no, gee, what the fuck? Wait, hello? Why? No.
About who is part of this set, because it does not yet include Lander, because you haven't.
You should just ask a question that's just equally stupid, but on like the flip side or whatever, like contrapositive or the opposite or whatever. Like, do you not think that the DSA candidates winning their general elections would help them? And then see if he says no to that. I don't know if he would actually say no to that, but it's such a stupid phrasing. Yeah.
Examine his like platforms or whatever.
Haven't looked
it certainly doesn't include AOC. Does it include Bernie Sanders?
Does it include Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders has been around for fucking ever, and he votes obviously all the time with Democrats. So no, I wouldn't say it would include Bernie. No. It includes more people. Yeah, Ilhan Omar, it would include 100%.
I just don't understand why make a distinction between Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders. That to me is bizarre. Ilhan Omar also mostly votes for Democrats.
I get basically just doesn't consider political ideology or anything at all, or positions at all, I guess. Maybe. What does he actually? I don't know what Piso actually considers when it comes time to considering like who is like a Democrat or who's on our team or whatever. Or if he, I don't understand. I don't know. Well, no, he does, because if you would ask him the question about should we have like a fucking Nazi or whatever, would he accept that? I don't think he would.
She has a better record. Here's what I say, right? Ilhan Omar has a better record in the House voting for Democrats than like Jared Golden. She has a better record than Marie Glueson-Perez. She wasn't like Tom Suozzi, who's condemning Kamala as the border czar.
Bernie Sanders they don't
take those votes.
Bernie Sanders is a what?
Independent.
In which which branch?
No, but
in the Senate?
In Vermont, in the Senate.
Vermont.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
No, but the person, right? I'm
talking
about the person, whether this would apply if Bernie Sanders was running for state office somewhere, right? If Bernie was running for state office in Wisconsin, or if he was running for state, like I'm just trying to get like the type of person, regardless of like which specific race. I grant that.
I don't want to talk about like the hypotheticals or whatever. I want to talk about like core, I guess, people and whatnot. So like if we're talking about like the actual core thing of like would I vote for Bernie or would I vote for Ilhan Omar? Well, I would obviously vote for Bernie. He's in the Senate, which is the most important thing in my mind. I would not vote for Ilhan Omar. She's a House member, and yeah, I think that she should be gone with hopefully the rest of the DSA members. Okay, AOC can say.
But you would. So you don't want to address hypotheticals? Any hypothetical in this conversation?
No, I'm down to address hypotheticals, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to address like the hypothetical of like if Bernie was running in like this random race, would I vote for him? Does that make sense? It just gets a bit like crazy.
And why is that? Or
because it's just not. It's not even like. It's not even a thing that matters or is going to happen or we could like even know about.
Okay, so all right, you would vote for Bernie. You would not vote for Ilhan Omar.
That's right.
You would vote for the MAGA Republican in Wisconsin governor's race.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, I would. For this election, yes.
Or abstain from voting is also an
Okay.
answer, I guess.
All right, I think there's a values difference here.
What is the values
I
difference?
think that MAGA is a more existential threat and requires like all hands on deck, and it's not dead yet.
Why? But they're not all hands on deck, though. They're not all hands on deck. They explicitly will not come to all hands on deck on the leftist. I don't know why you keep saying this. Like, I agree, you don't. You're the one that doesn't have that position. If your position was all hands on deck, then you would be anti-DSA. But you seem to not have that position.
Yet. Trump is not out of office yet. He still holds the power. And so even if I granted this fear, like these people
Also, no, MAGA was the threat, and Trump is going to be annoying as fuck to deal with, I guess, in office, but like, we have to look forward. MAGA is not the threat going forward. It's going to be whatever mutates out of the cancerous, toxic sludge that is the remnants of the conservative party after Daddy Trump is gone. That's the thing that our eyes need to be on next. You can't fearmonger over Trump to try to encourage us to vote for fucking commies, you know, while saying that the Democrats having an anti-commie position isn't enough for them to be electable anymore.
backstabbers, that they're not going to fall in line, where there's a track record of them falling in line, right? Like you have AOC falling in line. You have, you know, Bernie Sanders. He is maybe a model for a lot of these types. And again, like you mentioned, you don't really have a problem with him. You have Mamdani, who's working closely with Kathy Hochul, who did not endorse a challenger against Hakeem Jeffries. So there's a model there which assuages my fears a little bit, and the limited nature of where the success is happening. Given that factor, I just think it's all hands on deck against MAGA, and I would never countenance giving up the governor's mansion in Wisconsin for 4 years under this administration when they're currently in power. Now, that's a values disagreement.
Sure. Yeah, we just disagree.
It's worth it to triangulate that position. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, this is just like a disagreement.
right.
I don't think we'll move either person on the Wisconsin House race. Or sorry, the governorship.
Okay. And in terms of the candidates who...
I also like that Pisco doesn't even try. Like, there's never an ideological... I don't even know if Pisco has a political ideology. Not to insult him. Sometimes it just seems like he hasn't thought about it at all. But he never actually tries to convince you to vote, I feel, or to support the DSA. It's always just like, don't we have to stop Trump or whatever? And then it feels like the conversation stops there all the time. I don't know.
This applies. Definitely Chevalier, definitely Valdez, and Ilhan Omar. And
Omar,
Ilhan
for sure,
Omar,
yeah.
why?
She didn't vote for Ukraine. She's a DSA member. I would want her primaried. Would be the goal.
Okay.
I know that we're kind of like past it all and Ukraine is like yesterday's news, but like if I could pick party members, if I could pick people that I think belong in my political party, what the lefties do with like AIPAC and Israel, that's it. I would easily do that with Ukraine. I would have no problem purity testing the fuck out of people on that. And if you don't fall in line on that position, you're out. Whatever the fuck, however the fuck you identify, whatever the fuck you are, I don't want to be anywhere near you, and I don't want to have you anywhere near my politics. That would be the easiest no-brainer fucking thing in the universe for me. But we can't even have that conversation because our country is so fucking insane. And I don't believe that DSA members would ever jump on board with that as well.
So,
Actually, we've already seen that because Dylan, they had that Track Ukraine thing, and even for smaller candidates that were associated with Progressive Victory, they couldn't get them to make commitments for Ukraine. So,
willing to, on the sort of lack of Ukraine support, and again, this is not in the primary. In the primary, I can understand it. In the general, because of lack of Ukraine support, vote for the MAGA Republican.
Yes.
Even though the MAGA Republicans, you know, I don't know, on average.
like, he can play this game all day and try to make people on our side sound so, like, unhinged. That's all he's doing. He's just acting like Crystal Ball, I guess. I don't know. Where it's like, oh, I'm just going to ask this question. It's like, are you going to bite the bullet? Because it's so crazy. And it's so crazy. And it's like, every single thing you're saying has already been done, but worse with the DSA wackies, with the, what do they call themselves? The non-committed movement. Over the most insanely purity-tested Israel-Palestine position. They already did all of this.
But a lot of them are also against funding for Ukraine. But
I'm willing to do that because I want the...
Even though the MAGA Republicans, you know, I don't know on average, but a lot of them are also against funding for Ukraine. But
I'm willing to do that because I want the DSA to die, and I don't believe that the House is currently in a unwinnable spot for the Democrats without like a few seats. Yeah. I believe the Democrats are going to win the House. They're going to have a majority. I don't think it's 1-2 tight.
But if it were like, so if it was like 15, 16 DSA members, does that argument go away? Now the House of Representatives is in play, right?
I would at that point then
the bigger the margin. In other words,
the more successful they get, the harder it is to stop working with them. That's why I want them to die now.
Okay. Damn it.
Because that is exactly what will happen, by the way. I like that Peace Code like pre-made that argument because the Peace Code types will tell you in the future, they'll say like exactly that right now you're attacking something that's not even a threat. So why are you so, invested in, why are you spending so much time like trying to go after this like thing that's not even anywhere near the issue that you think it is? But then in the future, if they grow bigger, it's going to be like, well, this is what the people want. This is popular right now. Like, why are you so against like what the majority of the voters in the Democrat, like there's no time ever. And the DSA types like play this exact same game. There is never, ever, ever a time to attack them ever. There's always some reason why it would be inappropriate now to actually be hostile towards these people. And it's so fucking annoying.
That's depressing for me. I just gotta be honest.
I don't know why. It's one election that I want them to just be gone from, and then we can go back to having the Democratic Party, and we can hopefully message better and win all of these people who are starting to go for like DSA crazies back.
There's no argument.
The DSA members take like even just like 8 or 9 seats. I don't think you're gonna say that the margin is secure enough.
You lagged a little bit.
I feel like at this point, I don't know. And again, maybe I just don't know how much like political ideological stuff Pisco, like the contents of Pisco's mind or what he deals with. But like at this point, I would want to hear him even state if he has disagreements, I guess, with the DSA. Because now I'm wondering, because sometimes it just feels like lip service arguments. Like, well, yeah, obviously I don't like these people because of A, B, and C. And then like that's it. But I'm not actually sure. I don't know.
Can you say it again?
Oh, my bad. Yeah. So there is a crossover point where if DSA members that are included in the set, again, excluding the ones who are not included in the set because they have good views, there's a crossover point at which even like 6, 7, 8.
There will be a point at some point of critical mass, which
you're
would
not going to fuck around with that.
Which would be uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
There would be a critical mass point which I would be uncomfortable with. Yeah.
No!
Yes. I'm not saying that I like MAGA. I don't like MAGA. I just want the DSA to die right now.
I don't think you're saying that.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and you think this will achieve? But the thing is, like, why do you think this will achieve that?
It would show. If they can't win these, if they can't win these seats, specifically the ones in New York City, it would show that these people are absolutely unelectable. And then I would hope that all of the influencers out there who are pushing for these people would realize they're unelectable and stop pushing for them, and instead try and push for moderate Democrats versus these nut jobs.
Oh man, is he gonna say it? Like, oh, so you just want influencers to stop posting TikTok videos? Is that all you want? No, I'm just gonna.
And in Wisconsin, that will be demonstrative of their lack of electability.
Yeah, if a DSA member loses the
and then people will stop being. The DSA will lose its influence.
I would hope.
Or you think it's more likely they will?
That would be more likely. Yeah.
I'm less confident of that, but all right. So let's move.
What does that mean? I'm less confident of that. So you don't think it'll have any impact on their electability if they lose their elections? What? You should push them on that. Like, how can you get away with saying that? No, I don't think it'll have any impact whatsoever. How not? Wait, what?
My goal is not to. My goal here was not to like push him on anything.
No, I understand. He gets away with like that's such a brain rot statement. How could it have no impact? That doesn't even make sense.
That's part of the prescription in terms of voting. I think that is an understandable prescription. It's one that makes sense to me. I disagree with it. I mean, I just think that we disagree on the prescription.
Somebody said, purity testing like this is AIDS. Anyone who isn't supporting a blue taking a seat over a red is an enemy and isn't focused on beating MAGA. DSA types aren't an issue worth giving MAGA seats over, but they will give MAGA seats over a moderate Dem. So why don't you apply the same standard to them? You can't have one-way agreements. It means you're always going to prime yourself for exploitation. How do people not understand this?
It's not on. I will say this is the first time that someone.
Like, I feel like I need to go dig out my conservatives and actually make do I have to make are you going to make me make the suicidal empathy argument? Like, you can't have one-way agreements.
Has suggested not voting for like a real, what I think is like an insanely important race in the general election. But I will just like disagree with that. And that on the prescription. It's not on. I will say this is the first time that someone has suggested not voting for like a real, what I think is like an insanely important race in the general election, but I will just like disagree with that, and that is like close.
Well, except for every single lefty,
DSA members,
yeah, except for the people that you're telling me to support, except for every single lefty in the last general election for the president. Is the presidential election as important as Senate seats or governorships?
When I was talking to Avi, his prescription would be,
and it's okay to disagree. Forward. I don't mind like disagreeing with you on this or whatever. I just want people to understand I genuinely view the DSA as the scariest thing right now, versus who I believe is on their way.
The scariest?
Yeah,
scarier than Donald Trump and fascism?
Incredibly scary right now. Yeah. Obviously, I think the MAGA, not for the Senate. Obviously, I believe that the MAGA Republicans and Trump are technically the scariest thing. I just meant like they're very scary. If I really viewed them as the scariest thing, then I wouldn't be pushing for the senators, like DSA senators or whatever. Yeah, but I am pushing for that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't share that fear.
At
So
all.
we disagree on that. So in terms of that prescription, I'm just not going to sign on to it. Although I appreciate you because I do think that that's like a concrete and like real prescription with teeth to it. I'm just like, holy I'm not going to do that, bro. And I think that you should, if the Senate is important enough vis-a-vis the Supreme Court, the Wisconsin governor's mansion is important enough, bro. It really is. I mean, these state offices are super, super crucial. Remember when Elon Musk was like, I'm sorry, this is my last attempt to try to convince you otherwise, because I feel like I'm failing in this conversation to impress upon you the importance of it.
I get
Elon
it's
Musk
important.
was all guns blazing. Yeah.
You can keep going.
But what do you think they're going to do in Wisconsin if she wins? Like, she's going to end private property. She's going to end
And then now back to the binary thing. Like,
democracy in Wisconsin.
The problem if she wins, it signals to other like DSA members that like these are quote unquote winnable.
this is also like the issue is that he just has no macro, and a lot of moderate libs, I think. I'm assuming this. Otherwise, the assumption is they're subversive actors who are intentionally being bad faith. But like, there's just a total lack of macro view of politics, right? Like, oh, so they're gonna, as soon as they get elected, they're gonna immediately destroy all democracy. They're gonna immediately. No, that's not how any of this works. Trump didn't really do well. He did do a lot, but he didn't do as much in term 1 as he did in term 2. But like that's how it works. They're politics, they progress over time.
Seats, and that like DSA actually has a place in here, and they can like mask on as hard as they want, and then actually win, and then they become like a huge like snowball effect. So yes, I don't want any DSA members in any huge positions of power. Yeah.
I like how he always does this. Like, it's such an unreasonable, such a crazy position. Like, he has to contemplate it for the first time.
Why wouldn't that apply to the Senate, though? I mean, if it's really a snowball effect,
the Senate, there's two Supreme Court seats right now of people who can and probably will retire if the Republicans win. That would give Trump a total of, I think, 5 Supreme Court justice seats. It's 4 or 5, and that can't happen. That is losing an entire branch of government to wackos,
which we already kind
of have. Okay. And
no contention.
Well, I'll try one last time. Okay. On the House of Representatives margins, you think it's not plausible that it'll be limited to a 1, 2, 3 seat margin?
That's correct.
The Democratic victory.
Yes. If I saw that,
why is that implausible too?
If I saw that it became like it's a 1 to 2 margin, I would probably push for the DSA members. I have to think about it a little bit more. But yeah,
it seems really contingent to me. Like this is like the I don't know.
It is contingent.
Doctor Strange set of possibilities. Oh, that's what I mean. But like,
hey, what's up, buddy?
Yo, what's up, gentlemen?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing great. If you don't mind, I saw you were watching this. I haven't watched it yet. I heard Mooten did a great job, but I'm not worried about these DSA people, which I'm sure is going to make you unhappy. But if you had to summarize in like a sentence or two why you're concerned about these DSA types in this election cycle, what would you say?
My issue is that the DSA. So one of the positions I think the Democratic Party has had issues fighting against, or one of the issues on the macro political party for the Democratic Party, is we're never able to kind of fight anything to our left. Like we can't. And it seems like the only way these things ever get tossed out is when they become so huge that they start to have like serious negative political impacts for us, and then they're like en masse rejected by voters in sometimes ways that are kind of catastrophic for the party and the country. So like I think like defund the police and the BLM thing was a big thing for that. I think a lot of kind of the wacky trans stuff got a little bit too out of pocket, and we just weren't able to course correct on any of it. Like I think that on a political level, the Democratic Party cannot push against any of these far left people. So that's one thing that's kind of scary. A second thing is that these DSA types, like depending on the seats that they get, these motherfuckers might be there for a long time. And like, I'm already fucking annoyed by that fucking Fetterman dude who every day I've got to watch this motherfucker go on Fox News. And now I'm watching like these insane DSA people making the rounds on Fox News. And the only thing they ever do is they attack the moderate Dems. They make us all look bad. And they do it from like the safety of these seats that I don't know if they're ever going to fucking lose them. Like, how long is Mamdani going to be mayor of New York? This guy going to be mayor of New York for the next 40 fucking years. How long are these DSA people in New York going to, be in their seats? And how much are they going to use that to just abuse the main party? Especially when it seems like nobody is willing or able to push back against any of them ever. And then those people, the DSA people, my third point, I guess, final one, I guess, is they have an intentional like goal and desire to like subvert and then take over the Democratic Party. And they do it with positions that I think are in some ways they're principally incompatible with me, and then in otherwise I think they're not even like politically effective positions to take.
Okay, and when you've heard this argument before, but AOC is a card-carrying member of DSA since 2018, and I don't think people are concerned about her doing the things that you just described. So what is your response when people bring that up?
I mean, AOC is just one person, but like, imagine if like the fear that I have isn't like AOC and like Mamdani. My fear is them holding the door open and creating like a permissibility structure to let a lot of the other wacky people in, and then people can always point to, well, look at AOC and Mamdani; they're not that bad. Yeah, and that's scary to me. And regardless of what we say about her, I mean, she's still a dues-paying DSA member. And I mean, Mamdani endorsed at least one wacky as fuck person in New York. And who's to say that they're not going to use their platform to continue to attack the rest of the party going forward?
So in this election cycle, I've seen the DSA types win in very blue districts, which you're obviously aware of. There was a guy who ran as a DSA type named Kai Newkirk in Arizona's 4th Congressional District, and it was D+4, much different than the D+29 or D+30 environments that they've won in so far. He got his ass kicked by 25 points, and he went up against a guy who's been there like 8-10 years, nothing exciting. So my argument is, I think there's very few of these environments that they can win in. So you say they're opening up the door. I would push back and say there's very limited opportunity for those sort of pickups within our party. Like there aren't that many D+30 seats in the country.
Sure, but I mean, like, does this mean now that we can't seat any of our leadership because leadership isn't leadership traditionally seated in pretty blue areas, and now we have to worry the risk of, you know, AOC primaried. You would know the Democratic leadership that she ended up ousting from office. Like, are we gonna have to
Joe Crawley?
Yeah, Crawley. Yeah, are we gonna have to worry about? I guess like DSA members targeting any leadership that we place in any like blue area for future elections, and then is it just going to be like a 10 or 20 member caucus who's going to be cancerously fighting us on the media grounds and on policy grounds going forward, and we just have to accept that? Yeah, I don't disagree with you that I don't think that they can't run in. I don't think that they're competitive in these ultra like purpley areas. Although the Wisconsin shit, I don't know what the fuck is going on there. But in some ways that makes me even more worried because it means that the DSA types get to fight us from exclusively safe battlegrounds, which is why I don't think you really see them targeting moderates or talking much about MAGA. So we have to fight them there, and then we also have to fight. You know, the Conservative Party on our right. So it just seems like we're doing like a 2-flank war where one of these flanks is constantly backstabbing because we can't even say anything about it. And then I'm curious what you think about this. I think that the gerrymander stuff, especially now that the Supreme Court has given it its blessing, I think the gerrymander shit is going to fuck us super hard. And I don't think any of these people are going to want to change it because the gerrymander shit is so good for conservatives. Obviously, you know why. I don't have to explain that to you. But it's also really good for the DSA types because how do you create bigger +30, +20 districts? Part of it is through gerrymandering. It's concentrating people together into one district, make it super blue to give them an opportunity to win in those places maybe in the future as well. So like, I don't know, do you think that the DSA types are going to have big conversations about getting rid of partisan gerrymandering? Do you think that they're going to come along with the Dems and support us on the messaging for that? Or is it just going to be labeling every single person who's ever spoken to a Jew in their entire life an AIPAC member from now on?
Well, it's always going to be hard to get people to support putting themselves out of a job. And that's what redistricting does. So that's going to require a groundswell of public support. And I think just continuing to poison the well and pissing both sides off, which I think the Republicans have helped us with this election cycle with their mid-decade gerrymandering and California responding. Now you're starting to see Republicans sour on gerrymandering, where before they thought it was amazing. So
wait, really?
I don't know if
I haven't seen that yet, but I don't look out for it as much. So if that's happening, that's good. But Jesus.
Yeah, you can hear Republicans grumbling about California, saying they stole seats, and a Republican became an independent to try to win a seat in California. Kevin Kiley, I think his name is. But yeah, no, there's plenty of complaints from Republicans about gerrymandering now too. This is why I encourage Democrats to go further and create spiral galaxy-looking districts in states so that we can really piss some more people off. Because that's the only way we're going to get rid of gerrymandering.
Yeah, we're going to be in the end game of gerrymandering where it's going to be like the craziest shit. Yeah.
But I'm all for it because we just have to piss so many people off to get anything done in this country. But my argument is I don't think the DSA types are going to have any impact on that. But I guess I would challenge you a little bit, Destiny, in the sense that these guys are maybe going to have 4 or 5 seats when all is said and done. Right now they have 4. And I don't see them getting much more. There's a election on Tuesday between Cori Bush trying to get her seat back from a guy named Wesley Bell. He's looking pretty solid in that. And then there's a few other little ones here and there. So maybe let's say they have 5-6 seats. But what sort of margin do you think the Democrats would have in the House? What sort of like, how big of a majority over the Republicans if we win the House?
Right now, isn't it fucking slated to be like 7 seats or something? Isn't it pretty small? Or
It could be, I think, on the low end around 7. I think it could be even smaller if things are tighter. But I would expect it to be around 10 to 15. Do you think that's unfair to say that? Or I'm coping to say that?
I don't know. I've seen like the polling for whether or not the Democrats even win the House, I've heard, has dropped to like 60-some% for the prediction market stuff. I don't know how accurate or true that is, or people are just being emotional right now. But I mean, it's all pretty spooky to me.
There are polls. I think Fox News had a poll showing +7 for the generic Democrats, generic ballot with the Democrats in favor by 7. And there was a +11 from another notable org. And plus the special elections, we shifted the electorate about 13 points to the left. So basically my point is that I think these guys will have a few seats, but I don't think that they're going to pull a squad in 2019 where they make demands and hold up the speakership of Hakeem Jeffries if we win. It's possible.
I mean, we say that, but
I
feel like we're like ignoring certain things that are hurting us a lot, and they just don't get factored in the conversation. Like, my understanding is Fetterman was like a super lefty pick. Like, people were happy to have that guy in, right? And he kind of fucked us hard, no?
Yes. When I met Hassan in Amsterdam in 2022 and I had a Fetterman sweater on. He's like, I like your sweatshirt. So yes.
Like, I don't know if I've missed certain votes, Fetterman. But like Fetterman, unironically, at least from how he's voted in committees, is actually no different than a conservative vote. Because it seems like I don't know, has he ever been the deciding vote to not push a conservative appointment out of committee? I think he's almost always done. I think every single time he's done this.
I don't think every single time, but some very high-profile ones. I believe Pete Hegseth. And yeah, he has taken the position that Trump deserves to have his cabinet. And in all honesty, I kind of appreciate that because the crazier and the worse his picks are, the better for us. Like, I'd rather have Pete Hegseth in there fucking it all up and screwing up everything so that we do well in future elections than some competent guy. So I kind of tip my hat to Fetterman.
I mean, if we had a competent guy, though, in there, maybe we wouldn't be in this fucking Iran war having like 13 or whatever troops fucking die at this point.
But here's the thing.
That's my issue.
But I understand that, Moon, but like, elections have consequences, and we might as well let Trump show his ass and actually show what he would do in power instead of getting in their way.
Well,
that's
hold on.
how if we really want to keep Republicans.
That's like, say, so like if Trump were to appoint like 5 new Supreme Court justices, it's like, well, let's let them appoint, so we can have 9 Supreme Court justices that are all Trump picks, because that'll show us how bad the Supreme Court really is, and then people like I don't think that's a real.
No, I think that's unfair because that is something that goes beyond the presidency. That is decades into the future. That to me is a bit unfair.
The judicial appointments are as well, no? It's not like you swap out
your lower bench, but
yeah.
But okay, but those were going to happen no matter what. It's not like Fetterman's the guy allowing all his judicial appointments to get through or something. I mean, I think that the idea is that, look, unless it's a very, very controversial person, they're going to allow them to go through for the most part. Plus, they only need 51 votes, and they have 53, so they don't even need any Democrats for that.
Sure. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just saying, like, if you won't even, like, usually the ones where they don't need your vote is where you would expect people to kind of show a little bit more their party solidarity because they know they can vote against it without consequence. But I don't know. The whole Graham Plattner fiasco, I mean, that was like brought to us by, these DSA types. I mean.
But my whole point about Fetterman, and I appreciate you bringing him up, is I don't think he is the deciding vote. And you brought up a great point that he has continued to say, I'm not going to become a Republican. I mean, just the last few days, he's been adamant. I'm never going to be a Republican because I'm going to continue to vote the way I do, which is 90+% with the Democrats. And he still has positions that the Democrats have. And I wish he would bring that up more often because every time he talks, it's about, I love Israel, Gone, or Trump derangement syndrome is infecting the Democrats. But he still supports progressive policy. Like he talks about the PRO Act for unions, things like that. And I believe he even supports Medicare for all. I mean, I believe he's still quite progressive, as you brought up.
Do you think if it came down to it, if somehow he was like the deciding vote in Congress for like the SAVE Act, do you think that
he's a no on that?
He said that 100%? He would be a no on that?
He said it. He said Adam many times he's a no on that. Yeah. So but it's a great point. Like, I do not think Fetterman is voting with the Republicans. Yes, he's going to try to play the role of Manchin. I think that's what he's doing. He sees a lane where he doesn't want to be one of 100 senators. He sees an opportunity to be the Manchin of today. And that was a very powerful position for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to be in.
True.
You can get a lot. You can demand a lot. You get courted by the Republicans. You know, they're like
assuming he doesn't party
stuff.
change. Yeah.
Democrats
okay. Also, he's not strongly against this SAVE Act. I think he just feels like it's like too loaded at the moment. He's pretty big on, or it seems like it's pretty open to voter ID laws or something. So I don't know if that SAVE Act could be chopped up in a way that he would support it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes, but he has said he's a no on the Save America Act. But there's other people that are a no on it on the right, like Murkowski. She gave a whole speech saying in Alaska, if you have to go in person and present documents proving your citizenship, that means people booking $1,000 flight, staying in a hotel. It's just not feasible. And then John Curtis, a Republican senator from Utah who replaced Mitt Romney, came out recently and was talking about he's against it, and I imagine that's because Utah mostly votes by mail, and it would limit the ability for people to vote by mail.
Sure.
So plenty of Republicans are against it, and it's kind of funny that Trump keeps harping on it. But no, the point is, I don't think Fetterman is the deciding factor. You bring up Graham Plattner. I would argue in the end, Graham Plattner worked out for us because he got all these people excited in Maine. They had historic turnout, including independents voting for him. And then we got to drop him for some actual lumberjack who is the real deal. And the worst controversy he has is that he created a fake account to troll Republicans on Reddit.
I guess I feel like with the setup you've got, though, basically no matter what happens with the DSA types, it's always good because they either give Trump some kind of power to let Trump show his ass, or they fuck up on their own, which allows us maybe hopefully to win in the future, or they are successful, in which case we would say, well, good, they can govern successfully. But I feel like it's like they have like a win-win-win condition. I don't know why. That's just not a compelling enough reason for me. Like when you came in and you asked, like, do you think these people are a threat? I don't think that we have like a like an existential threat to us like right now at this very moment in time. But what I see is a Democratic establishment that's unable or unwilling to push back against them in any size, shape, or form. And then I see them like explicitly and avowedly stating that their goal is essentially to, engage in some like massive subversive thing against the Democratic Party because they don't like any establishment Dems. And that just seems like such an unnecessarily risky game to play for any reason. I don't know why I wouldn't just like prefer that these people not, exist in a way where they're like, do you agree with that their goal is to like fundamentally, at least for the party leadership, maybe not the average voter, but their goal is to like fundamentally alter the fabric of the Democratic Party?
Yes, but I would say they think they're doing it from a good place. And I would argue
Hitler
that
thought he was
a lot
coming
of
from
their
a good
goals,
place. Everybody thinks they're coming from a good place, no?
Yeah, I understand, but I would say most of their goals align with the Democratic Party goals already.
I super disagree with that. I
think if you look at their goals, they're very cringe on the surface, like abolishing prisons, right? But I don't want to defend them, but I'm just saying, like, in a lot of ways, the Democratic Party as a whole is looking to reduce the number of people in prison and address the root cause of what sends people to prison. Again, I'm not defending them. I think it's completely idiotic to say abolish prisons and all that shit.
What you just said, okay, there's another thing to trigger, okay? Because, what you just said is another issue that I have with a lot of these DSA types, and that they'll have an extremely stupid position, and then when you actually push them on it and you get an explanation from them, the position becomes far more reasonable. But that position then, like what you just said, wouldn't the average like Democratic lawmaker want to support that position?
The position of reducing the number of people in prison, for example?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So this is not like a DSA position. It's not like we need a separate like subversive wing in our party to do like prison reform. So, but then when we have them, it manages to hijack the conversation in such a way that like I've heard DSA types say the only reason that Biden was able to win the election was because he adopted some socialist policies in his platform in 2020. I was like, what? Like the socialist policies of having a higher minimum wage or supporting workers?
What I'm saying is I think these people are tapping into where the public is at better than the moderate Democrats who are currently in control. When you say establishment, I've had a real problem with this word lately because, like, what does that mean? You know, like, what is AOC establishment? She's been in there for 8 years. So I
would
think
say establishment is like your moderate positions that are represented in politicians that have held seats for long times. I would say it's like your establishment.
I understand and I agree with you. That's what people mean by it. But I think we cede that ground unnecessarily to people and just accept it. Like, yeah, we're the establishment. I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying I think liberals in general are like, what do you mean we're the establishment? We just gave you the enhanced ACA subsidies for 5 years that allowed 12 more million people to afford health insurance in this country. You know,
well, why are we letting establishment be a slur in this perspective? Like this,
yes,
like I think
I agree.
But it shouldn't be. Like we are the establishment, and that's okay. It's easy for DSA types to you say they tap into what society wants. Like, well, yeah, they've tapped into the idea that they can promise free shit for literally everybody at zero cost to us.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like, wow, like what a great tap in. Like, like
I
how does that
agree.
help us?
How do you? That's how Trump won the election in 2024. He promised free shit, basically. He said, I'll cut your energy bill in half. Your grocery store prices will come down. I'll end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. He basically promised free shit. And we're sitting here wringing our hands saying, we got to be real with the people and we've got to be honest. And we can reduce your bill by 2% over the next 10 years. So that's what I'm saying. They're tapping into that energy better than we are. I'm not saying they're doing a good job. I mean these are total lunatics.
I feel like these are good for like short-term gains, but I mean the issue, and I mean obviously this is now the state of the Republican Party is they are having, as soon as Trump is gone, they're going to have a massive reckoning with the failures of Trump in office. There's going to be, I think there's going to be a whole amnesia moment of like, I didn't support this guy. I don't know what happened here or whatever, when everybody knows they did.
You're right.
But like
you're
these types
100%
of
right.
These types of, I don't want to play like these types of short-term dangerous games because, we're going to be the free shit promisers while the country is, Republican and Democrat, unfortunately, looking to the Democrats exclusively to govern the country because Republicans can't do it. I don't even know if we can afford to play that game because there has to be at least one adult in the room.
Well, if both sides are playing that game, then I think you can get away with it. And I'm not saying we should promise free pizza in the quad on Fridays and Dr. Pepper in the drinking fountains. I'm saying let's get a little bigger with what we're telling people we can do. Like Kamala made no great promises in 2024. She's like, we'll do a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time homeowners, and we'll try to build 3 million houses. It's like, no, let's overpromise because the public has shown they're so desperate for help that they will not punish you for under-delivering.
I don't know.
That's
I mean, I feel like
that's part of my point.
In the short term, they won't, but I feel like an election or two down the road, when things don't change. I mean, that was the whole reason I just said. I do think the Republican Party is going to have a big reckoning. They're already kind of in the middle of it right now because Trump failed to deliver so much on all of the grandiose promises.
But that's because Trump is a crook and focused on himself, and he's also probably suffering from dementia as he shadow boxes his demons from the past. If they had a competent Republican in there who could provide a little win here and there and then point the finger at the Democrats properly, or actual
little wins,
foreign actors or something, they can get away with it.
I don't think the public appreciates little wins. They just want the fucking rainbow, and then they just want it to be said on media, and that's the only thing that matters. Look at Biden's position on education. Biden came in, and during COVID, Biden said he was going to forgive all student loans, right? And he tried to do it, citing the House bill, saying it, whatever. He tried to do it, and then eventually the Supreme Court, thank God for Roberts coming in and fucking shutting that down, of course, because nothing that a Democrat does can ever be allowed to stand. But when that was shut down, Biden still managed to forgive some tens of billions of dollars. How much student loan debt was forgiven under Biden?
$200 billion for 6 million people.
$200 billion? Wait, for how many people?
6 million people.
Oh, okay.
Through pre-existing programs, public student loan forgiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah, but if you would ask a single person, does Biden have any wins on education? I think the entire Democratic electorate, both moderates and obviously like DSA lefty types, would say, Biden didn't do fuck all for us on education.
Because he did a shitty job, and the Democrats did a shitty job of promoting it and selling it.
Yeah, but how can we promote it when anything we do incrementally is always going to be undercut by these, extremists on the left who are going to say that it's not enough and we could do better by promising you the rainbow.
Okay, so now we get into, it's a great question. And now we get into the territory where here's what I think is happening. So I think this is a lull in our politics right now. These are the primaries. It's the summer before the midterms. This is like as slow as it gets. And people are looking for some action, something exciting. And these DSA guys are it. But if the Democrats win the midterms, the attention is going to focus to them taking over the House, maybe even the Senate, and what investigations will happen. And once those investigations happen, and I'm talking about like Epstein file, primetime, witness testifying, and I just think the public perception of the Democrats as a whole will shift, including and led by the moderates like Hakeem Jeffries, the people that are running the committees, the establishment. And you're talking about a total shift in how they're viewed in the public's eyes. And the reason I bring that up, and some people might say that's but that's how the media works. Like we've lived in a reality with Republicans in control of the House for the last 4 years, doing jack shit except investigating the Biden crime family and twiddling their thumbs, doing whatever Trump wants. People forgot what it's like to have actual competent actors in there doing real investigations the American people care about when it comes to like housing and chemicals in the food like Roundup or whatever. And so I just think that's going to help bolster the Democrats as a whole, and that's led by the moderates. And the point I bring that up is I think it drowns out the DSA voices. I think there's very little bandwidth left for these people rattling the cage. But right now, because nothing's happening, the Democrats aren't in power. There's nothing they can do. People are like, do something, you idiots. They're poking them with a stick as they lie on the ground, helpless, saying these DSA people are promising the world. They're going to totally change everything. And so they're able to take advantage of that at this moment. But it's going to be short-lived, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, I hope you're right. I mean, like, if I was wrong about all of this, I mean, I would consider that a good thing. But that just doesn't seem to be directionally, where we're headed. And all I see is a total lack of willingness to ever try to criticize any of these people, hold them accountable, which makes me feel like they can continue to message all these wins going forward. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, like if it ends up just blowing out and being a nothing burger, then fine. Also, I'm not necessarily saying that like we need to be spending all of our time, talking about these lefties all the time or whatever. But the one directional punching from them and then being told constantly that like we can't fight them, it's not worth it, while they're just relentlessly shitting on establishment Dems. I don't know. It's kind of annoying.
I don't agree with that at all. And I would never say let's not focus on them. Like I don't criticize Hutch for fighting with leftists all day long. And I would never criticize you for doing that either. I believe that you are fighting for the soul of the party, like Biden said. You're in a different arena than a lot of people. You're on the front lines of like winning the hearts and minds of the people, and you're seeing that these guys are advancing, and you're concerned that their influence will grow. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate concern, and I understand why you're raising the alarm bell. But do you disagree with my point that the media and the public are going to be highly distracted and interested in the Democrats, at least in the House, running huge investigations into Trump that are like high profile stuff?
I hope I just am totally out of touch and wrong on this, but my feeling is nobody will care at all. I don't think people will care at all about investigation stuff related to the administration. I just don't think people know like what's even legal or illegal, and I don't even know what you could show them that they would care about. And the thing that bothers me kind of the most is that moderate voters that care about voters that seem to care a lot about like corruption related stuff. I think that most of them think that both parties are equally corrupt anyway. So like these voters aren't even ones that we can necessarily strengthen in a Democratic position regardless. And then, I don't know. And then I don't know how much is going to be over like nailing the Trump guys on like the actual insanely fucking corrupt shit that's gone on versus how much is just going to be like obsessively trying to relitigate the Epstein shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Well,
there's a lot still to be uncovered with the Epstein stuff. And it is a bipartisan issue that upsets a lot of people. And so is like the insider stock trading stuff. That hasn't even been touched yet. The poly market bets.
I think that poly market stuff is definitely bad, but I don't think the insider trading stuff, I'm not sure how much would even be uncovered there. I think people just don't like the idea of elected people trading, period. But the idea of them actually engaging in like malicious insider trading, I don't know if that's ever going to be as juicy as people want it to be. And then I would say the same, obviously, for the Epstein stuff. I don't think people are wanting smoking guns that I just don't think exists. But I don't know, maybe I could be wrong on that.
You don't think an Epstein survivor testifying in the House, prime time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, you don't think that would be a game changer?
Without a smoking gun, no. Unless you could tie a big figure to some actual prosecutable activity, no, I don't think so. I mean, we have the whole I understand government is a little bit more and civics is a little bit harder for Americans, but like that J6 Select Committee presentation was like 5 days long, and I don't know if anybody gave a fuck about any of that.
Well,
but I understand
that
that's a little
J6 issue wasn't bipartisan. That was you didn't have MAGA grumbling about, yeah, that was bad. This is something that I've seen hardcore MAGA people leave and burn their hat over. So I can't prove it, but I just think naming names in prime time by the victims or just giving information would be huge. I don't think it would be the thing that changes it, but I don't think people realize how the news and the reporters treat members of Congress when they're not in power. They don't even bother like engaging with them much. You're just sort of like, you're in Siberia when you're in the minority. Nobody gives a shit what you have to say about anything. They know you can't do anything. And so the majority gets all of the attention. So that's why I think as soon as the Democrats take over the House and possibly the Senate, you'll see a shift in the narrative and just the way the media talks about the Democrats.
Sure, there might be. But like, I mean, like, for instance, with regards to the Epstein stuff, gun to your head, do you think there's anything prosecutable in there? And if you say yes, my next question is going to be for a party that hyped it up so much and was so desperate to eke out any win on that and have already like launched, insanely stupid indictments. Why didn't Bondi indict anybody over it?
Well, because Trump told Marjorie Taylor Greene it would hurt his friends
to have their names to have their names like unredacted. But do you think well, I guess I'm sorry, I guess for the first question, do you think that there is chargeable stuff in those files that just hasn't been adequately covered yet?
I don't think in the files alone there is enough evidence to charge somebody. And remember, there could be a lot of evidence. Like Matt Gaetz had very damning evidence against him, Venmo transactions, eyewitness testimony of him banging 17-year-olds. I mean, there was a lot of evidence, and they still couldn't bring a charge. And I don't think that was due to corruption. That was under Biden. And I think that's because they just, like the key witness was his partner in crime who had tried to extort somebody for sleeping with minors. So that was like terrible for the government's case. So my point is that there can be some pretty damning evidence in there against people, but not enough due to lack of corroborating evidence. That being said, testimony in front of Congress by witnesses may be able to produce new leads or even provide that missing evidence that could lead to prosecutions. I don't kid myself that Trump is going to go to cell block A and be a chomo in prison, but some other people may be prosecuted. And then the Democrats are seen as the heroes who finally got some of these monsters associated with Epstein and the carnage he caused put in prison.
I guess the thing that just scares me so much about this proposition is that, and I understand whatever civics Americans don't care, but like I think there's a lot of stuff that the Trump admin has done that if in a perfect world, if we were prosecuting people, that I would want to see people fall for. But I don't know if there's anything in that Epstein file thing that is chargeable. And if we come in and we manage to use all of our congressional capital and time just, redigging up the Epstein files over and over again to try to mine it for congressional testimony or whatever, if we do all of that and then we don't charge anybody, like, holy shit! Like it's over. Like it's over.
But we're not the ones that would charge. Like Congress can't charge, as you know. So it would come down to the DOJ. So it would make Trump look even worse that we bring up this damning evidence, and he's still not charging. I think it just adds to the pain.
Well,
for
but
Trump.
When the next Democratic president comes into office, they're going to want the charges then, right?
Sure. If
we don't find any
is revealed,
why
wouldn't we? Of course we would. They're probably going to be Trump's friends, like Howard Nutlick, who's his commerce secretary, who went to Epstein Island in 2012.
Well, I guess.
And hey, we could play this game too of just charging people and hey, prove you're innocent in court, homie. Have fun.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see.
So that's kind of my point. I'll let you get back here to the debate, but I just wanted to come in here and ask you, because I've heard from a lot of people that you're very concerned about these DSA types, and I've told people that's fine. I think he's fighting a different fight, and I wanted to hear it from you directly, and I wanted you to hear my point of view to see what I'm missing here.
Yeah,
so
but I mean, I think
really wanted to jump
I mean, I do think that there are a lot of problems that Democrats have that I think also like tie back to this stuff. So like one thing that keeps getting brought up is like the general toxicity, I think, of the Democratic Party, that nobody likes the Democratic Party, like even Democrats don't like the Democratic Party. But I think part of that
But what do you base that on? Polls or just in general vibes?
Polls.
Okay, but the same polls show nobody likes the Republican Party either. So to me, that cancels it out. Like,
well, no, hold
nobody
on.
likes any parties. They don't like Congress. They don't like
but that
anybody.
hurts. We would hope that if people are not liking the Republican Party, that they would be moving to liking the Democratic Party. But that's not happening. And I think part of the reason.
Happen.
Well, what do you mean? We can never build favorability for our party ever? Even in our own party?
When it comes to public, I think when it comes to the public's trust and hope and support of political parties, that is always going to be a challenge, and it's always going to be down there in the gutter.
I don't know. I guess I feel like a lot of that is played into by the DSA types that are just constantly like attacking our party from the inside, and then sometimes exhibiting positions that are just too far left for the electorate that then we all have to own because nobody can push back against them as well. Like all of these wacky DSA types that the Fox News hosts are like gleefully having revolving door for on their channels. Like these people, all of these clips are going to be played against us. All of these interviews are going to be used against moderate Dems in these elections, and the DSA types are happy for the airtime. Like they don't care. So I don't know, just having this relentless figure within us that is totally fine attacking us constantly. And we have to figure out a way to like work with them, and everybody's like happy to just watch them sit by and lob grenades at us. I don't know. It's a very frustrating state of affairs, I think.
But what if they do work with us?
I mean,
so I'll give you an example. Brad Lander, the guy who took out Dan Goldman.
Like, yeah, it's really, really hard to hear that as a serious consideration after like the whole unaligned or the uncommitted movement and like the refusal to support Harris in 2024.
Do you think it's unfair of me to say that the rhetoric will moderate as we get closer to November in the next 100 days? Because right now we're still in the primaries. Even like Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens' primary isn't until Tuesday. And then August 11th is that Francesca Hong woman, the DSA governor candidate in Wisconsin. So I believe that as we get closer to November, these DSA types will actually moderate a little bit. Maybe not the ones who don't have to worry. But
not the media ones. No shot. They've been calling,
but
all of the Democratic people are MAGA light. They're part of the duopoly. They're the same thing as the Republicans, basically. They're establishment AIPAC, Israeli bought. Like anybody that has anything even remotely close to AIPAC's tendrils on them will be like immediately attacked by all these people. Like,
but why do you think the DSA types would do that? To me, it seems like that would go against their best interest, because that would hurt the Democrats' chances in the general, especially in those swing districts that those candidates are vulnerable to those sort of attacks. Why would they do that and hurt the Democratic Party's chances of winning the House? Because
anytime the Dems
it just
lose,
doesn't make sense.
What do you mean? Because moderate Dems losing is always good for them, and they can keep. They loved when Harris lost because they can keep pointing to, and they do this. Like, look, your candidate lost. You guys are losers. Look, you guys can't win the elections. That's why you need to turn the reins over to us.
So you believe that these DSA types that have won in their primaries would rather see the Democrats lose in the general so that they can continue to build support for their faction. Is
1 trillion%. Absolutely, yeah. Unquestionably.
Okay. I disagree with that.
Okay. I mean, like, you can look at the media reactions. Like, you can watch, like, the Majority Report people watched, when the 13 elections, when Spanberger was elected, everything, how disappointed these guys were when they saw that the moderate Dems were winning their races, because they were like, fuck, they were hoping for that huge upset, because every time a moderate Dem loses, it's a stronger argument for them to come in and take over. And then you can see... yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think these people still represent constituents, and they still have a job to do, and they are joining the legislative body.
Look at how they responded to. Have you seen all the attacks against Whitmer? Jesus, just for support or for endorsing Stevens?
Yes, but that's the primary.
No,
watch Abdul. Watch how he changes if he wins the primary. He's already moderated a little bit. Watch how he changes his tune if he wins the primary, which right now it looks like he's going to, I believe he will moderate.
But
And
attacking
he
Whitmer,
will-
Whitmer
he might-
isn't
he
really
might-
the primary, though, right?
Yeah,
That's
I don't
the
know.
governor of
What do you
Michigan.
He might moderate a little bit, but like the media people, and if he loses, like do you agree that there are some attacks that you can make in a primary that are fine, and there are other attacks that you make that you can't really come back from? Like it's a little bit too extreme to make
Sure.
this attack and expect that anybody will support. Yeah, and I mean, like
Absolutely.
I feel like the
I think
AIPAC
he's
genocide
misstepped as
shit,
well.
I think is a little bit too far beyond the pale. I don't know.
Well, that's not even the worst criticism that people are pointing out. They're focusing on misogyny, which I think is whatever. But in a state led by women like Whitmer and Dana Nessel, the AG, there's a lot of high profile women in that state. I think it means a lot. That's just one reason. But yeah, he has said some weird shit. Like he said Haley Stevens can't string 2 sentences together. And he's been so toxic that he had to put out a statement 2 weeks ago telling his supporters to stop attacking her personally. So I agree with you that he's misstepped. And that I brought that up in that clip that Hassan watched where he was
Making fun of her
Gooning
accent
to
for
me
6
being-
minutes. Oh, a different one. Sorry.
Yeah, the one where he found out I was born in Israel and he thought it explains everything. And then he had to go back and be like, it's okay to be born in Israel, guys.
Sure. That position, by the
but-
way, is
but I brought
equally
that up.
inhabited by every other like far leftist like media figure as well. Like whether they would say it publicly or not, like they feel
Sure.
the same way. But okay.
But my point is that I do think he has made his job harder if he wins the primary, which will hurt his chances of winning. But you're making the argument that he would rather lose in a sense so that his movement that he's a leader in can gain more power in the future, which I think is a bit absurd.
Wait, no. The DSA people, of course, want to win their races. Him losing, especially in the general, would be really bad for them, I think, or be quite bad. They can kind of make excuses in the primary because they'll just say that the Jews controlled the election and the Democratic side or whatever. But losing the general would be bad for him. But they would want they want moderate Dems to lose, because when moderate Dems lose, then the progressives feel like they have an even stronger argument for why their candidate should be preferred.
I understand that argument, but my pushback on that is these people are actually trying to show they can be good at their job and deliver results. I think that means more for the future of their movement to get into the system and show that they can accomplish things. And that involves working with the other legislators, especially when you're in the minority like that. You're 2% of the 225 Democrats or whatever. And so this is why I've been telling people, I think we show up on January 3rd if we win the House and everybody votes for Hakeem Jeffries and there's no drama. And I wouldn't be shocked if they work it all out ahead of time.
Okay, I mean, I guess we'll see. Yeah.
Well, I'm a perennial optimist. So I'm going to hope for the best and assume the best happen until I see something bad. And I understand your position is saying it'll be too late by then. We've given a green light and a thumbs up to these guys, and you're opening up the door to the barbarians, and they're going to come in and destroy everything. I don't think that's what their goal is, and I understand where you're coming from. And I would argue them being pressed on Fox News is actually helping us make our case, because now we have something to point to and go, we ain't that. Okay, that was hilarious, and we can actually show people the difference between Democrats and that they don't represent all of us.
Do you think that on the media side of things, do you think that people like Kyle and Crystal, do you think that they are going to support Stevens if she beats El Sayed?
I think they will quietly, reluctantly, tacitly support somebody like Stevens. They will, maybe I'm wrong, and I probably am, but I would hope that they would just keep their mouth shut until the general, knowing that Democrats winning would help improve a lot of people's lives. At the very
Do you
least,
think
checking
they
Trump.
think that? Do you think they believe that what you just said, that Democrats winning does help people improve their lives? Because I'm not convinced. I don't believe that they even think that. I don't know where you're getting that view from. But maybe
That's
I'm
a great
totally
question.
out of
I
step
don't-
there. It doesn't feel like it because of how willing they are to. This is why they've made, like, they constantly say the reason why Israel-Palestine is the litmus test is because you can tell if somebody doesn't have the correct position on Israel-Palestine, that means that they'll never be able to govern effectively in a way that delivers justice for average Americans. Like, if you can't even deliver justice for the Palestinians against a genocide, how can you deliver justice for Americans?
I understand the point, and I do think that is black and white issue to them. However, I still think they know that Democrats would be better for the Palestinians. I'm not saying
How
a
could you say
world
that
of
over the
improvement.
the uncommitted movement and the fact that they explicitly wouldn't endorse, like Kyle Kalinske and
I
these people didn't
understand.
endorse Kamala Harris. Like if that was such that decision, whatever political roads are before us, the Harris versus Trump 2 was the easiest no-brainer in the world. Like if you could make the right decision there, why would I imagine they could make the right decision on any other more complicated thing in the future?
Well, I still think, and maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm wrong, that they know in their hearts that Democrats are better. To what degree? I don't know. But they do not want to accept those crumbs, as Cenk loves to say. They don't want to be on the side of supporting incrementalism. They want to continue to fight for more.
And then real
I
quick,
do
when
not
you
think
say
they're
they don't support
accelerationists.
incrementalism and they want to fight for more, what is that? What is the more you think they're fighting for?
They're fighting for the bigger picture, like Medicare for all, for example, instead of the 20 steps that are required, including like public option before we get there.
Well, I mean, I think they're also throwing for, or they're trying to get like a revolutionary change in like the structure of the United States. Like if you listen to like Crystal Ball talk, like it's kind of crazy, but it's pretty like open now that like I hate that these words have all been abused so much by conservatives, but like she is like a Marxist. Like she doesn't believe in like identity politics or woke politics anymore. So to say that these people don't just want like more of the same stuff that Democrats are promising, like they're looking for something revolutionary and transformative.
I I don't know these people. I've met Kyle Kalinske. You've met a lot of these people in person, so you would know better than me. I don't think they're that serious in their commitment. Personally, I see them more as grifters taking advantage of a moment, and that people are feeling really beaten down economically, and they're giving them a magic button to press to change the world. You know, everybody wants instant gratification, and so just press these couple of buttons and get rid of capitalism in Israel, and you'll have a hot girlfriend, and you'll have enough money to buy a house. You know, it's just stupid false promises. Because the reason why I say that, and why I think I'm not intimidated by them, is because I don't think the vast majority of people who voted for these DSA types and will, like for Francesca Hong, August 11th in Wisconsin, I don't think they're doing it to support socialism. They may think they are supporting some form of socialism, but I think the vast majority of Americans, socialism is when people don't fall through the cracks. It's when people can afford their health insurance.
Like I agree with you.
So they're not voting for these crazy ideas. They're not voting for this ideology.
I agree with you there, but part of the subversion, the reason why it's called subversion is because you're trying to be sneaky with what you're doing, has been like the slow and normal acceptance of all of these like wacky socialist ideas. Like, so right now,
yes,
I fully agree with you that the average Democrat, even when they said 1/3 now poll is socialist, whatever, I don't think they're like fucking card-carrying Marxists or crazier types or anything like that. But it used to be that there was an aversion in the United States to even hearing the word socialist or communist. It was like a slur, okay? Well, that aversion is gone. And I think the aversion to a lot of these terms is increasingly disappearing. And I think that's like an intentional process. And like, if a third of the Democratic Party identifies as democratic socialists, right, the vast majority of those people are just ordinary, liberals that want a little bit more protection from the government, but some percentage of those people will become Marxists, and that number is just going to grow more and more and more and more and more. And it seems like we're just facilitating that happening. And yeah, I don't know.
Well,
and then obviously,
I guess I feel like there's a limit to that growth. It caps out.
Why?
In my opinion,
what, didn't they? But the Republicans felt the same about MAGA, no?
No, but because I think as conditions improve with Democrats in power, which I think it will, these concerns that are leading to people joining more extreme movements and supporting extremist ideology dies down. I think this is a moment in time where people are getting their ass kicked by Trump's tariffs, the high years of inflation that still are sticky, and the war in Iran and Israel's bullshit. And so they're just so defeated and so beaten down that they're willing to listen to something a little more extreme. As conditions improve and the world gets better, I think the attraction of something more extreme dies down.
I mean, I guess we'll see. It doesn't feel that way, but Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else I can say besides we'll see, I guess. And hopefully I'm wrong, but
Well, but I understand where you're coming from, and I think it could go your way as well. I mean, I'm not oblivious to the fact that maybe they get some super hot, good-looking people in there who can convince more people, and all of a sudden people are like, you know what? Capitalism, man, bad, and I'm down
We'll
with this.
fight
But
the fight, guy.
yeah, I guess. But I don't see that. I think, like I said, this is a lull. This is a low point for the Democratic Party right now because they're not in power, and these guys are able to scream and promise Dr. Pepper in the drinking fountains. But I love seeing them get challenged on Fox News. It's funny to watch them crumble
why?
and just stupidly smirk along like, yeah, I get rid of prisons. Okay, what do we do with child rapists? We'll figure it out.
Well,
like,
you understand
all right,
that
girl.
what you're watching there, though, you understand that what's happening there is they're fine with their performances because any DSA person listening to them giving those answers, they agree with them and they support them. The only people that are being hurt by those interviews are moderate Dems because Republicans aren't bringing these people on. Why do you think they're so excited to bring them on? And they don't even like own them that aggressively. Like they're just happy to get the answers on the record. And the DSA people are happy to give it. They're like, oh yeah, of course I would abolish all prisons. And of course, blah, 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 blah. And then the Fox News people, you're right. They look crazy. But when you say they look crazy, the they is Democrats.
Well, but I don't, as we just said a few minutes ago, I don't think most people know what democratic socialism really means. I don't think they know the DSA party platform. And now they're starting to hear what it actually entails and going, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Whereas before these guys went on TV and started getting attention in interviews, they could kind of get away with this, oh, democratic socialism is when I fix potholes like Mamdani in New York City, or I give you a free bus pass once in a while. Now people are like, oh, democratic socialists support letting rapists run free in a society because we don't have prisons. Now they're starting to get exposed.
Hearing, like,
and even... Well, but hold on.
Nobody's hearing just Democratic
point.
Socialists. They're hearing Democrats.
Well, but no, they're finding out about the Democratic Socialists, I believe, in the process. I don't think...
You think
when I watch
liberals
those
are watching
interviews-
Fox News to get information about Democrats and the party? In terms of... I think it's just it's going to be Republicans using this to just attack Democrats.
You'd be surprised how many liberals are influenced by what Fox News is up to through clips, and they kind of drive the narrative. CNN and MS Now aren't getting any views. It's all Fox News getting the attention. But I think people are starting to find out what the Democratic Socialists actually stand for, and I'll even give you evidence why I think this is working. That woman, Francesca Hong, she now says she doesn't agree with the national DSA platform, and she supports her local chapter. So now even the DSA candidates are having to distance themselves from the DSA, which is just hilarious and shows what a clown show it is.
I mean, yeah. I guess I hope that voters pick up on that nuance, I guess. Hopefully the frontline Democrats, I guess, and the voters and everything can differentiate there, I guess. Yeah.
Well, but you agree with me that nobody has a clue what democratic socialism and what the DSA stands for, right?
Yeah, but that's intentional. That's part of their strategy.
But now they're finding out. They're plastering it on Fox News. Here's your platform. Abolish the Senate. Abolish the presidency.
I think, I could be totally wrong on this, but I don't think that voters in the Democratic Party are going to learn what democratic socialism is from Republicans. Republicans are just going to try to paint it with a broad brush all Democrats as this thing. If we wanted Democrats to know how crazy the Democratic Socialists are, then I think we would need other Democrats saying it. This is why I'm arguing so much that we have to be more willing to fight these people. Because what happens is Fox News will go ahead and say all of these things, but then the Democratic establishment will be silent on it. They won't say anything about it because we're told not to infight. They'll never make strong positions on it. And then the voters will look at the Democrats not saying anything and they'll be like, well, I don't know. Maybe more of these people agree with it than I realized. And we're just going to be, in a situation like we were the whole BLM stuff, 5, 6, 7 years ago or whatever.
Well, I think you've seen the door open now for the Democrats to distance themselves from that stuff, including the DSA candidates themselves too. I think we've just seen the beginning of that.
Okay. I mean, I guess we'll see, but I don't know of any big Democratic figures that are calling out the wacky DSA stuff that have any amount of popular support. Are there any? Are there any Democratic media figures or any Democratic lawmakers that are kind of like, feuding a little bit with the DSA people. Obviously, Schumer and Jeffries are behind closed doors, but everybody hates these people. They view that as they don't like these guys.
As far as like big media figures, I don't know. I'm sure they're out there, but I mean, there's people fighting about them on CNN and MS Now and all that all the time. But you're already I think you're going to see in November, if we win, that their voices are not going to. They're not going to be as powerful as people make them out to be, and that's going to kind of neuter their movement. But I think you're going to start to see more Democrats distance themselves from that, because they're, like you said, they know that it's toxic and it could cost us in November. So once these primaries are done, I think you're going to see a bit of a shift here, not only for the Democrats to distance themselves from that, and now they have ammunition to do it, but also from those DSA types themselves kind of throwing their own party under the bus, which I think is hilarious and helpful.
Okay. Well, we'll see, I guess, how it goes, yeah?
Well, I understand if people disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm always looking for the positive. And I just want to say I understand where you're coming from. But what would you want to see in an ideal world, just as a conclusion here to this conversation? Do you want to see like Hakeem Jeffries and Brian Tyler Cohen on CNN screaming about how just terrible these DSA people are and how stupid they are and clowning on them? Like what did you?
A little
what
bit.
kind of response
just so that
are you
people
looking
know
for?
that like these people don't represent the average Democrat. That the average Democrat is not like a wacky loony socialist type, or is not pushing for whatever prison abolition or whatever crazy stuff the Republicans are going to try to pin on us from the DSA type people. I would like to see some kind of some kind of position like that, because right now, because I think the stuff that's hurt us in the past hasn't been the stuff that the Democrats have believed in. It's been the stuff that the Democrats have refused to push back on. I think it's been the stuff that's hurt us so much. I think that, again, I'm pro-trans. I got my bona fides. I don't give a fuck, right? But the the trans issues hurt us a lot, not because every Democratic lawmaker, even the majority of Democratic lawmakers, have these crazy positions on trans people. It was because a few people did, and nobody could push back against them ever. And I think that was really bad.
I do agree with you on that. And my biggest criticism of 2024 and continuing to this day is Democrats do not state what our position is. So when it comes to the trans movement, we don't say how far we're willing to go with stuff. And I don't think that's like a bad, I don't think there's a terrible position to take. For example, we'll leave it up to the athletic associations like the NCAA to figure out what's fair and competitive. And if they decide it's not right and they don't want it, then that's it. That's the end of the story. But it's like Democrats are so terrified of offending 4.5 people out there that they don't want to draw a line and say, this is our position. This is how far we go.
Well, sure, but you should be terrified because these people will like attack you relentlessly. It's happened to the Adam Smith guy after he went on Breaking Points. It happened to, McMorrow. It happened to Slotkin. Like, you will get relentlessly harassed and attacked by these other people who will never ever experience anything of the same, because MAGA is never targeting them and center left libs don't ever talk about them. So they have like it's an infinite permission structure for them to just relentlessly shit on people on our side, and that is a scary thing to deal with.
It's another really bad attack too, because then you're called like transphobic.
Well, we have to do it, because if we don't take a position, the American people will use their imagination and they're not going to be charitable. They're going to think that we want to trans everyone and we want children to have drive-through genital surgery at CVS. I mean, we have to draw a line, and we can't be afraid of offending 6 people in America. And as far as what the DSA people are going to do, as far as attacking people, we can't control that. We can only control what we do.
Well, no, I think we can control it. That's my whole argument, is that right now, like when I talk about wanting to shit on or attack anybody, like this comes up a lot with when we were doing like the tit for tat arguments. The reason why I'm talking about this isn't because I want to be fighting all the time with the DSA. It's because I want to eliminate the permission structure right now that allows them to infinitely harass and bully our people with impunity. I think that if the DSA or socialist types were getting more aggressive pushback from the center left, I don't think that they would just want to, duke it out all day in the fucking trenches. I think they would just chill a little bit, But right now, if you're a DSA type, you should relentlessly and viciously attack moderate Dems until you destroy them. That's what Crystal and Kyle have stated. They openly stated that the entire Democratic Party essentially needs to go. They either need to be bullied into the right positions or all of them need to be primaried out. And the only reason they say that is because they know that they'll never get pushback from anybody else for saying it because nobody wants to say anything about it, which is spooky and annoying me.
You might disagree with me on this, but I think competition is good. And I think that these DSA types catching on with some people and getting some attention can make the Democrats do better and learn and grow and be more competitive. I
agree with you 1 trillion %, but we're not competing because we're not allowed to say anything bad about them. Nobody is competing because nobody is. Competing would mean
Why can't we say something bad?
I don't know. You tell me. Nobody is. If somebody,
I've been mocking them all day long. Everybody is.
Okay, sure, but earlier because you asked me like, what would you want Brian Tyler Cohen to do? You know, go and start screaming about him. Yeah, when they say wacky stuff, we should. And then I do agree that that type of competition would make our party better. But right now, it's just like a bunch of silence, I think. And then they kind of like get to have the floor in discussing their wacky weirdo beliefs, and then
I think it's coming. People are nervous about having discord within our own party right now. And to their credit, they're the ones tapping into something and they've got the activists excited. Like nobody's out there excited to go knock doors for moderates, like it's
I understand
you and
this.
I
I've heard this a lot,
understand.
but that part of the reason why is because you cannot be championing moderates ever. Because as soon as you do, not only are you having to do a whole ass fight with MAGA, obviously, now you also have to fight with the left wing of your party that will never say anything nice about you and will always be constantly attacking you. This goes back to the thing I said before, where I think there's a reason why there isn't any excitement for moderate Dems. And I think part of the reason why is because of the structure in our party where anytime there's a Democratic accomplishment, it's immediately treated as some kind of like socialist or left-wing accomplishment. And then all the other annoyances and irritations people have with politics in general just gets offloaded onto moderate Dems. And I think the DSA facilitates that. And they welcome it. They enjoy it. They champion it.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I just think we can only control what we do, and we need to get better. We need the Democrats, the Hakeem Jeffries, and everyone to get better.
I agree.
And it starts with all of us.
Part of getting better, though, is attacking. How do the DSA get so popular? Part of getting better is relentlessly shitting on certain groups of people. We can't shit on anybody except for maybe MAGA. The DSA have grown by shitting on Dems. That's been their majority position. That's the most popular thing they do. So when you say like, well, how do they get excited? They've got people excited and hyped. Yeah, of course, because all they do is attack us all day, which is why I think we should attack them back to establish our positions a little bit better.
I agree, and I think it's coming. And I think that they're also going to lose a lot of their fight as they get closer to November, and especially when they finally get into the building and realize, oh shit, this is a different game than I thought it was, right? It's easy to scream from the outside and bang on the glass, but once you're inside the party, it's like, okay, there's some rules to this game, and like Mamdani having to adapt and change his approach.
Well, I mean, but is that, do they ever feel that pressure, right? Like how many of them look at, say, like Bernie Sanders and think like, man, this guy hasn't been the most effective legislator. Maybe our movement's not working. Like they've created so many permission structures for them to continuously fail. When they lose elections, it's because of AIPAC. If they win elections and they can't get anything done, it's because the Dems won't work with them or because some corporate lobbyist or whatever. Like there's infinite reasons why they can never even get the things they want done. And then they're just like in this perpetual loop of like not successfully governing ever because they don't even have the seats to do it. And then the few times they can do it, there's excuses for them not to. And then they're allowed to get away with it because they are the minority members. And I don't know.
I think they're always going to get away with that. There's always going to be some element of that. The challenge is on our end to do better. That's the only thing in our control. That's the only thing I focus on. Can't control those lunatics. But like I said earlier, if we improve the conditions for people, they're less susceptible to that extremist ideology. If we become cheerleaders and spread the word about what our leaders are doing and what the party's doing and put a different front up, then that saps the opportunity for these people to come in and promise the world to people. And because we're not like, if you ask any random person, what's the Democratic Party fighting for? They have no idea, but they know what these DSA freaks are fighting for. So we need to just get better. That's how I see it.
Sure, I agree. I just think part of that getting better is fighting with the DSA people.
Sure. And that's why I would never knock what you do or Hutch or anybody. I definitely think we need to separate ourselves from them. I definitely agree with you on that. And I'd like to see people like Brian Tyler Cohen step up and start clowning on them and say, hey, that is a fringe element of our party. That's never going to get anywhere. And it sounds like they demand Pop-Tarts for dinner, and we're not playing that game. So that's not who we are. Let me tell you who we are, though. So I just see it as competition that makes us step up our game and do better. That's all I see. And I also see once we're in power, their voices won't be as loud because there won't be as much bandwidth available for them due to a lot of shit going on, which you disagree with me. It seems you don't think Democrats will have much of an impact if they're in control of the House. And I guess time will tell. But I think people forgot how much Democrats contributed to Trump's defeat in 2020 with their investigations in the House. That played a sizable role in that, by shining a spotlight on some bad things. I mean, it's a totally different game when you're in control of one of the chambers.
Okay. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for chatting with me, bro. I appreciate it.
I love you. Be careful.
See you guys.
Bye.
Precariously contingent.
Yeah,
so that
being
if you're, it seems really contingent to me. Like this is like the, I don't know.
It is contingent.
Doctor Strange set of possibilities. Oh, that's what I mean. But like precariously contingent.
Yeah,
so that
being
if your
precarious
perspective on the, I'm not saying that you're being precarious. I'm saying like the set of circumstances by which you're not endorsing those members in House seats is really contingent on your intuition that the margin in the House is implausibly going to be as narrow as 2-3 seats.
That's correct.
Okay. Oof. And all right, so let's walk through the candidates. It's only House members and state offices.
Are we doing this again? Is this literally the game? Is it just gonna be like, would you vote for him or him? Would you vote for him
Yes.
or him? Would you vote for him or him?
This is what he
Would you vote
does
for him?
for
Is
the
this
next
is this
30
all we
minutes.
do? There's no ideological content at all in this guy's brain, or what? I don't understand.
Anyone besides Chevalier and Valdez.
Oh my
and Ilhan
god.
Omar.
I don't have any other names.
Now it's 3.
I don't have any other names off the top of my head now.
Okay. Cool. So I think we've identified what we disagree about.
Sure.
And I know the proposal, and I think people can just speak, like, can determine for themselves whether they agree with it, your recommendation or my recommendation. Is there anything else you think we disagree about other than our views on the existential nature of DSA and who to vote for in the upcoming elections?
No, I think for the most part, you and I agree on most things. I think we just have a different view of what the DSA is going to be and like how it's going.
Okay. And on the media stuff, because there's also this I'm anti-Semitic now, and like I sweep for communists. Like, do you take that view? And you think
Do I
like,
think
I'm not
you're
engaging with the media?
anti-Semitic? No, I don't think you're anti-Semitic.
Okay.
The only thing that would lead me to believe that is you brought a guy on named the Jew Stalker onto your Twitter space, but no, I don't think you're anti-Semitic.
I bring on I brought on Myron Gaines. Surely that was more. I mean, Myron Gaines comes on there and starts talking about JQ stuff and how he hates women.
Well, I don't think you should have brought him on
engage
either.
with Myron Gaines.
At least you can get something out of
You don't
Myron
think I should have brought on
Gaines.
Myron Gaines?
Well, I'll say this: at least you can get something out of Myron Gaines versus the Jew Stalker, who you can't get anything from because he has a way smaller audience than you.
I see people who are like prominent people in the like the request, and I just add them. I mean, I organized that entire conversation with Hobbit Follower because he reached out to me. At the end, I was just taking questions from the people who I saw that were requested. I recognized.
If Hitler
That's
requested, would you add him?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I
okay.
would.
Well, then that's
Do you want to take an
base,
opportunity to talk to Hitler?
No.
So would you like never talk to Nick Fuentes?
Would I never talk to Nick Fuentes? Nick Fuentes has I wouldn't add somebody with a smaller quote unquote platform to me to come spew their crazy when they're trying to legitimize themselves as like Democrat or like a Democratic commentator. No, I wouldn't personally. No.
I wasn't thinking of any of that. Like, I think
Sure,
you guys
I'm not saying you,
sworn
I'm not
these-
saying
Do
you
they
do
think
think
of
of that. I'm just saying that that's something I disagree with,
understand.
like you doing technically. I don't think when you added somebody to the Twitter space
as
and
well
told
as
them off
Myron
that you-
Gaines.
No, I said you can gain something from Myron Gaines, so I understand why you would do it.
But in terms of like anti-Semitism,
He's
don't
obvious.
think that those acts
He's
are
pretty bad.
anti-Semitic?
What?
No, yeah, he's
Oh,
anti-Semitic
pulling
for
him
sure,
up.
but, like-
Pulling him up? No, I wouldn't say that's anti-Semitic of you. No.
Okay, cool. All right, sick.
Now, if you let him come on your platform and he just
yeah.
like spewed anti-Semitism for an hour and you didn't say anything, I would say
Yeah.
that well maybe you're tangentially agreeing with him by not saying anything, right? But I think that you
By
would
not,
have,
like, pushing
you would
back
have
or
you would have
whatever.
appropriate pushback. You're not an idiot. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, bro. I mean, like, all right, I'm gonna try one more time. No, you cannot say that you would prefer a MAGA Republican in the
Oh my
governor's
God.
office.
In this race, I
It's too
would,
important.
man. I
No,
would.
it's too
I would.
important.
I would.
You're brain broken right now.
I'm not.
Like,
Go ahead.
they're not.
You should just like flip it when he says like, you're brain broken. It's like, okay, true, I am brain broken. You admit that every single DSA person is brain broken as well, right? Because they all say the same shit. Because somebody was linking in chat. Kyle Klinsky tweeted this 1 hour ago. The future is democratic socialism or Nazism. Jesus Christ.
It gets good.
they're not about to turn the party into this authoritarian liberal thing. That's
what you
crazy.
think.
Why do you think that? The Democratic faithful are like way too self-critical. They're way too a diverse coalition. If you ask them, if you poll the Democratic faithful, like, do you support with these kinds?
The Democratic faithful are too self-critical on all this. Yes, that's true. But this is what the socialist people are trying to eliminate. This is why they ban people from conventions, and this is why they don't ever talk to anybody who could challenge them in a conversation. This is how they function. It's the same way as like the MAGA people on their media side. Like all this self-criticism and all of this responsible platforming and being critical about our ideas would disappear. This is how all of them function right now, and there's no reason to think they would change that in the future.
Of authoritarian measures, getting rid of police, getting rid of prison, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to moderate, or this is going to be sent packing. That's exactly what Democrats did, by the way, in like San Francisco with the mayor guy and all these. Remember the ballot initiatives in California after they had like lowered the criminalization of certain crimes or whatever? The Democratic Party, when they see that their own candidates are up, it's a self-repair, self-defense mechanism. It happens.
The
How
Democratic
can you be scared
Party
of, like,
is,
a
but
Maoist
not the
takeover of the party?
socialist
The party
people.
will just wipe with these people and throw them out. And
Okay.
they have done that to the extent that they're ineffective or they don't fall in line. It happened also in the House of Representatives with Jamal Bowman, and it happened like with all these candidates who are crazy, stupid, distracting. This occurs, Mutin, and there's no basis other than, well, it happened to Trump. It's not going to happen to the Democratic Party, and there's no basis to believe it
It's
is.
just not going to happen.
Miss Holmes,
Plus, you're going to give away the governor's mansion in Wisconsin. That's insane. That's one of the closest swing states at a time when Trump is targeting these states. And you should the evidence of that should be on how insistent they were regarding the Wisconsin Supreme Court elections there. Elon Musk spent millions of dollars in that race precisely because it was so important. You understand? You can't give that up, man. This is existential right now. Do not underestimate Trump just because he appears weaker.
Miss Hong has to earn my vote, and I want to keep the DSA now versus
No,
have to
come
deal with
on.
them in the future.
No, they don't have to earn our vote. We have to earn their vote. No.
But this won't do it. It won't effectuate that.
It will.
The
It will
narrative
show
be,
that
oh,
they
the
are not
Democrats didn't fall in line.
electable. They are not electable. And they can say that the Democrats won't fall
You
in
think
line.
these DSA types are amenable to reason? You think they're going to be like, oh yeah, remember when they lost
then you
the
agree
Bernie
that,
race to Joe Biden and
then you
Hillary
agree
Clinton?
that they're scary. Then you agree that they're scary, and then you agree.
I agree, many of them are scary, but I'm just not worried that they're going to take over the party.
I
And the ones,
have that
by the way,
fear.
the candidates they promote, I just want to say the candidates they promote, typically they're palatable to me, especially compared to a MAGA Republican. Like someone like AOC, someone like Ilhan Omar. Again, I don't agree with Ilhan Omar's on the Ukraine funding stuff. I think that's cringe and bad or whatever, but I would take her any day of the week over a MAGA Republican. But just,
Yeah, the
just put that
DSA
aside,
probably
right? Like,
will start out as palatable. That's correct.
But it's not going to be just MAGA in the future. MAGA is going away. Like, they're not going to be here forever unless Trump finds a way to artificially extend his life. We have the next thing coming.
they're going to cope just like they coped about 2016, just like they coped about 2020. What do they say about those races, Moot?
Moot?
And that's
It
exactly
was stolen
why,
from us.
And that's exactly
They don't
why
take
I
the L.
That's
They
why
don't
I
take
wanna
the
deal
L,
with them,
Moon.
because if they start the snowball effect, it's going to be over, man. So again, I just
But
don't think we're just
you're
not going to
cutting off-
agree, man.
What would it take for me to convince you that the threat isn't as you perceive? What the kind of evidence that I would have to present to you?
I'll have to answer that at a later date because I'm not going to be able to come up with like a clear conclusion now. We can like schedule
But is it,
another
like,
talk. And I can think
unfalsifiable? You
about
could be
that.
like, oh.
No, it's not unfalsifiable. I'm sure that there is some set of circumstances that you could convince me. But it's something
right.
that I would have to actually like sit down and think about versus give you a quick answer.
Even like a theoretical, crazy science fiction explanation. Like
I
if
would
I were able
I
to
would want
demonstrate to you.
I'm listening.
What would be even the point of a crazy
If I were
theoretical
able to
science
demonstrate to you,
fiction?
like, read the minds of every Democratic voter, and we just like know that they have certain limits or whatever, and like just invent something that I could do to convince you. So some amount
If
of
you were
evidence.
able
that it would
to
take, where
give
you'd
me
be
a
like,
time machine and take me 10 years into the future, and I know exactly everybody's exact
What?
vote
Now he doesn't like the crazy hypothetical.
on every issue, and I see exactly how the party is acting and where we're at, then sure, you could convince me. But if you want like a real
now I'm gonna
hypothetical, that's not
specify.
going to be
in the,
wacko.
in the fog of war. Yeah, in the fog of war now.
Sure.
What?
Oh, okay. And another question.
He didn't like that. He didn't want the
Mamdani,
wacky hypothetical.
if you were eligible for the president over average MAGA Republican. Now, I
Oh
know
my
your prescription
God,
is
dude.
vote for them in the president, right? I know that's your prescription. What would empower the DSA more than getting Mamdani elected as the president? So if you really think
Luckily,
that the DSA
he isn't
is
eligible
the
to be
scariest
president,
threat,
man.
Okay, let's make it.
I don't deal in crazy hypotheticals. El Sayed? I would rather
my
El Sayed
God.
over a
Yeah.
MAGA Republican, sure. He's not by the DSA?
Wouldn't that empower the thing that you say is the greater threat right now?
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't think that the DSA is the greatest threat in the world right now. I think MAGA is, but I think we can wiggle around with it inside of the House of Representatives. We can't wiggle around with it in the Senate, and I think that we can wiggle around with it in the Wisconsin governorship. The presidency isn't really something that I would
All right.
want to wiggle around with.
Would you condemn someone who fails to endorse the Democratic candidate in the presidential or in the Senate?
Would I condemn
You mean
someone
like all the
who
DSA
doesn't
people
endorse?
did
What do you mean
last
by
election?
endorse?
Yeah, who doesn't follow your prescription?
I need
someone
to know
who says,
what
you know what, I'm going to sit
listen.
out the Senate race. I'm going to sit out the Senate race. I'm not going to support the candidate in the presidential if it's AOC. 55-45 AOC JD Vance. Would you condemn those like non-taking your prescriptions?
I would condemn someone who doesn't currently vote for the Democratic senator. I would condemn someone in 2028, depending on how this election goes. I'll have to get back to you.
Wait, I thought it was concrete that your proposal included the president. Now it doesn't?
I have to get back to you. I don't know what's going to happen this year.
So it's just for the Senate right now?
It's for the Senate, and then if the House gets way closer, then yeah, we would be able to have a conversation about
It's for the House. No, but for the presidency, surely that is way more important. I mean, you talked about the Supreme Court. In terms of the Supreme Court, you need the presidency to even put up these judges. And if you get a DSA member as a president, they're going to give some judges that are going to vote more blue. I mean, they're going to also need to be respected by the Academy and the other Democratic faithful. And I think that unlike the Republican Senate, the Democratic Senate is going to be more of a check on whatever excesses the.
I would
DSA
vote. I would currently vote for
president
AOC over JD Vance.
without question, right?
I would not have a question of it. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It seems so esoteric, man. It seems so particular.
It's so esoteric, and he's the one asking, like, well, what if it was AOC running against the reanimated corpse of Donald Trump, but AOC committed to only being a socialist and not a communist, and the reanimated corpse of Donald Trump committed to being a full fascist with Hitler as his vice president. He was also going to reanimate, but have it infect the body of J.D. Vance by liquid's arm being transplanted. It's like, Jesus Christ. Every single part of this conversation was like, what about these hypothetical elections that aren't happening at all right now? And if they were happening, the conversation would be completely different. It's like, Jesus, there's no ideological content in this whole conversation.
Yes, it is, because I believe that we have wiggle room.
Massively.
Yeah. And that's fair. We can disagree. We're just going to have to disagree, yeah.
And for state offices, that includes places like California, Texas, Florida, right? So if it's a DSA member, like up against a DeSantis, James Fishback.
I would have to get
everywhere. Keep going.
We would have to like pull up an actual example, and I'd have to see like how the exact is going. I understand that I'm being like
Hong in
pedantic over
California, Hong in Florida, Hong in Texas. These are vital states where Democrats want to make further inroads, states where this is going to affect what people's lives are like, to the extent that they've like completely banned abortion, to the extent they have any gerrymandering whatsoever, right? Gerrymandering.
Do we think the lefties are going to support whoever the fuck in the California governor race after Steyer lost? He ultimately didn't make the top two cutoff, right? It was Becerra and Hilton or whatever. I
believe it's Becerra and Hilton, yeah.
Yeah, they already don't do this. Are we allowed to play by the same rules as the DSA, or do we have a different rule set applied to us? You know what? That's my only question from now on. If I ever have to argue against any of these people, my question is going to be, do I have to play by the same rules of the DSA? Or I'm sorry, do I have to play by a different rule set, or can I play by the same rules that they have? And then from there,
swings like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seats.
Yeah,
I mean,
the DSA
if
is
you
pretty
care
bad
about
right
margins in the House, don't you think Hong would be more amenable to some sort of like cool gerrymander in Wisconsin than some Republican? And that might affect 3, 4, 5 House seats.
I hear you. The DSA is pretty scary for me.
Honestly, okay. All right, bro.
I appreciate the chat. Are you going to come and canvass for El Sayed if he wins?
I'm not sure if I'll go to Michigan, but
what about Ohio?
I'll probably go to Maine.
Okay.
I might go to Sherrod Brown. These and the numbers are really good. This is one of the reasons I'm not like as scared as much. Like look where the Democrats in really competitive places in these Senate races, they're able to muster like great candidates who are moderate, candidates who are willing to work within the party.
I'm excited. We got a few DSA members in like political sense, not like in real life, etc. Call for any violence. Yeah, metaphorically. We got to get them out of there, and then we can be super excited about the Democratic Party moving forward. I hope we get better leaders, and I hope the leaders actually go on news and tell people what we're fighting for. One thing I am interested to hear your takes on quickly is 1 second. I've got some easy Democratic wins that I think that the Democratic Party should be pushing for. So one is federal holiday for elections. Are you for that?
Yeah, but I also think it's not a super critical thing.
Sure.
But yes, I am in favor of it.
My next one would be free or reduced government childcare federally.
I mean, I'm not really a policy wonk, but it sounds like something I'd be down with, and something that like a lot of major.
The reason I really like this is because I feel like the average Democrat thing to get people like money back in their pocket is just like at the end of the year for their taxes, but nobody actually feels that.
Yeah,
whereas,
like tax credits and shit.
Yeah, whereas like people who are paying for childcare, etc., they see the $2,000 come out of their account every single month, and this would be a huge burden relief for them. That's why I'm pushing for that. The other one is voter ID tied to free passports for all.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have no problem with like a voter ID law packaged with a national ID.
Yeah.
The reason why people, I don't know, like the country has been against national ID are like a lot of these government like cynicism, and like we've used this number, the social security number, to be like our national ID when it's very insecure, very dumb. And so I'm fine with voter ID paired with like sufficient.
Wait, what? The reason why people are generally against voter ID is because Republicans generally only bring it up to fearmonger about people voting in elections that they don't want voting. Republicans, I think, will be against like gun registration databases and stuff, but Republicans are government when it comes to that, but not for voter ID stuff, I don't think.
Access and yeah, I think that's
You said national ID, not voter ID? Oh. Well, what's the point of a national ID if not for voter ID? I thought that's usually why that stuff is proposed.
I said free passport for voter IDs, yeah.
Okay, for voter ID. You just say voter ID. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And like we've used this number, the social security number, to be like our national ID when it's very insecure, very dumb. And so I'm fine with voter ID paired with like sufficient access. And yeah, I think that's dope. That's a great policy.
Someone brought up earlier, they were
This
like
is raising questions for me,
free
but yeah,
passports. So I was like, oh yeah, we just tied that into my voter ID thing. And then the last one is no AI in political advertisements.
Oh no, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I'm a free speech guy. I'm a free speech guy. So unless you can find out some good legal argument for why,
Do you think you should be able to AI like Talarico
doesn't
in
count?
like a dress saying something in a political advertisement?
I think that you could like restrict what's the deal, like kind of deception in ads and like misinforming consumers. So that I'm okay with. But like you said, I thought you said like a wholesale ban on AI. I don't know if that would be. I think that seems like far too broad from a free speech perspective. Unless you can make a good argument that like for whatever reason, I would have to be convinced by like a First Amendment argument on AI, because as it stands right now, I do think it's speech.
Okay, cool. I will
I'm a
add
rights
that to
guy
my
first. I'm
look into it.
a liberal. Wait, no, this is raising questions for me. Wait.
Yeah.
So in terms of the policy platform that someone like Hong or Mamdani or someone like one of these figures, I don't think else I had you put in there. What is the thing that's like most scary to you?
I want to abolish cops, etc.
But do you think that that's like a realistic scenario?
I think
like,
that it's crazy.
That's obviously, I would agree. That's a horrible position. Yeah, they have some stupid theory explanation for what they mean by that.
Yeah, these people are cancer and they should be out of they shouldn't be in any big elected office.
Yeah, but like people like AOC have said that before, and they've like, why is this a fear? They're not going to actually enact it. Right? You're not scared of them actually enacting that, right?
I don't know what they do in the future.
But you're not afraid of them actualizing it. Are you like concerned that they're actually going to?
I'm afraid that they would take over the Democratic.
It's so annoying that like we can't take them serious. Like this is the Trump argument. I don't know if they realize this or not, but they're making like these are the Trump arguments. Like Trump isn't actually going to be able to do this or that, and Trump, when he says this, it doesn't mean he can really do it. And he didn't go that far in term one. Like, we really can't consider anything seriously. We can only we can't even talk about their stated positions. We just have to deal in these like really wacky hypotheticals all day long, and that's it. I don't know. That's kind of annoying, but
party and then do wacky shit. Yeah, that's what I'm most scared of.
But not specifically getting rid of the police.
I don't know what they do, man. I have no idea. That's what they want to do. So yeah, I'm afraid of it. Yeah, I'm afraid that they're going to do what they say that they want to do.
Yes.
And same with prison. You think that they're actually?
I'm afraid that they're going to do what they say that they want to do. That's correct. That's their policy. I'm afraid of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not as afraid that they're going to be able to actualize that. Mamdani has said like this in the past too. He is like making inroads with the police. The power has a way of force, especially among Democrats, and unlike Trump, of forcing you to like build these bridges with other constituencies and interest groups and key holders to power. If you're actually scared of
why are we worried about one but not the other?
Maybe I would understand like why you're taking the tack that you're taking.
I'm scared that they're going to do what they say. Yeah.
Okay.
Got him.
All right. I think it's a irrational fear.
Ooh.
Hey, appreciate the conversation.
Appreciate the convo. Thank you so much.
Let me know if have any disagreement. Yeah.
We'll do.
Cool.
Have a good one. Ciao.
Ciao. Seriously?
Ciao.
Wow. Good job. Okay. Somebody said to listen to like the first. They said 16 to 18 minutes on this. What is the opener? I'll just speed through this. That was good. You did. How do you feel? You debated the Pisco and you survived, and yeah, I thought it was a good. Yeah.
I'll try my best. I learned from. Now the student has become the master.
Oh, all right. Okay. I can't think of anything. Fuck you. Well. Next, you're going to be debating Justigal on them. Did they watch this and go over how much of a fucking retard, et cetera, they say you are or whatever? Or?
Yeah, he was watching it.
Damn.
He can go fuck himself, though. I would never talk to that scumbag.
Damn.
Because I think it's stupid to give him a fucking platform.
Well,
What do you want to say? Would you vote for Hong?
I don't know. She seems wacky as fuck. She seems really wacky. Governor seats are big deals, but I don't even know. I would have to I guess actually go through her policies carefully to see what she's even stated she's for or whatever.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Cedar.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
And they're going to feel like you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. My name is Emma Vigland, in for Sam Cedar, and this is D5.
Stop saying you don't know. It's such a weasel move. No, the hypotheticals are the weasel move because you're asking hypotheticals to moderate Dems when the DSA people have already failed all of them in actuality. You're asking if we would pass a purity-tested hypothetical when they have failed the actual call to action to vote. So no, it's a retarded set of hypotheticals trying to purity test people that wouldn't follow their own hypotheticals in their end. No, fuck you. Suck a dick.
Time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Ilan Pape, professor of history at the University of Exeter and director of their European Center for Palestine Studies, author of many must-read books, joins us to discuss Israel's simultaneous implosion and expansion. And later in the show, Katie Berg, senior policy analyst on the food assistance team at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, joins us to discuss the impacts of Republican food stamp cuts. Also on the program, Iran and Oman are scheduled, or I should not say scheduled, are negotiating a side deal currently to create a toll mechanism for the Strait of Hormuz that can benefit them, plus the Gulf states as well, sidelining Washington. This is a strategic failure on every level for the United States. Trump once again wants to talk to Iran now. Shocker! Netanyahu and Trump are meeting after Lindsey Graham's funeral this morning. He could easily manipulate Trump into escalation ahead of the midterms. Some of the more savvy Republicans warn. A top DHS statistics official resigned, citing his inability to support Trump's war on immigrants.
I do think it's nasty and disgusting how these people are just rooting on the downfall of America.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, that's why most of these people tend to come from very privileged positions in life as well, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really impact you. So
It doesn't give a fuck about them.
A couple recently deported by ICE was bound and killed in Guatemala in front of their 14-month-old child. They had been in the U.S. fleeing this kind of political violence. Mitch McConnell provides another wordless photo proof of life, extending his leave, as Kentucky Governor Beshear says he should disclose his health details or resign. Senate Majority Leader Thune pleads with Trump on Fox News to stop asking him to nuke the filibuster for the Save America Act. James Talarico leads Paxton by 5 points in a new poll. Interesting. Wildfires rage in Oregon and Minnesota. Will you be shocked to hear that Trump's DOGE cuts on forest fire prevention had an impact?
We gotta tariff ourselves now.
You're right. We're creating the smoke. No, we tariff Canada for complaining about it. A witness in the case against the former Olympic canoeist accused of vandalizing the reflecting pool has testified, saying the pool was already damaged.
Worst thing that was ever done with a box cutter.
Yeah, unlikely story. Already damaged. It's a perfect pool. You damaged it.
You damaged it. The witness is Antifa. And lastly, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake hits Japan this morning. Hope everybody's okay. Many people are feared to be trapped in a shopping mall. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. It is Newsday Tuesday. As a reminder, Sam is out until Friday when he will make his triumphant return. And then all of next week, he will be back, of course. And I'm really trying to line up the best guests possible just to stick it to him, as Haley Stevens would say, and show him what the Michigan way is all about.
I've always thought you were a workhorse more than a show horse.
I'm not a show horse. I work, and, like Abdullah Sayed, I've been on podcasts, so that might make Haley Stevens and I unable to connect here. We'll talk about that insane debate in the Fun Half, I think.
Was it about substance?
It was about substance on his end. I watched the whole thing, and I would be hard-pressed to think of a more dominant debate performance than Abdullah Sayed versus Haley Stevens last night. We're a week away from that election, by the way, folks. And of course, if you're in Michigan, Will Lawrence, Donovan McKinney, these are candidates that, you should be supporting as well. So huge election coming up there, and not just in Michigan on that day, that upcoming primary day, the 4th. You've got Kansas, you've got Missouri, Virginia, and Washington, I believe. And in that same week, next week, on the Thursday, is the Tennessee primary, where there are a bunch of progressive candidates as well, including Justin Pearson, amongst others. So speaking of the elections, let's start here. Stephen Miller and the Republicans are terrified about the Democrats doing well in the upcoming midterm elections. And earlier this week, the Washington Examiner published an item. This is a paper that leans right. But they circulated and published this report about how the House Republican Conference is circulating a memo advising the members of the caucus to use Red Scare tactics and to run against communism in the upcoming election cycle. I mean, I guess this is all you have, right? When the economy is falling apart, when Trump started this war that's deeply unpopular.
Capitalism is discrediting itself in everyone's eyes, so
yes.
You have to freak out about the alternative.
It's funny you say that because Wall Street Journal survey in terms of capitalism discrediting itself earlier this month found that just under half of Americans say capitalism is working very well or somewhat well. And that was 60%, that figure, a decade ago. So it's a precipitous drop, and it's not just Democrats, and it's not just young people.
And I imagine imagine a decade ago it was much lower than it was a decade prior to that because it was in the wake of the financial crisis.
And so what do you do if you're a Trump administration that is committed to the most rapacious form of capitalism possible and crony capitalism in particular that benefits your friends? Well, you play up the threat of socialism and Marxism. And you don't just do it in rhetoric, like saying Obama is a communist because he puts Dijon mustard on his hot dog or whatever the hell. They do this in action. Ken Klippenstein, we had him on last week to discuss these details, but he's been on this for months, if not years. Since Trump 2.0 got underway, I mean, we told you to take Project 2025 seriously. We're telling you to take this seriously as well. NSPM 7, the memorandum that Trump and the White House has been sending around to federal law enforcement agencies to say, prioritize investigations of people who are under the umbrella of anti-fascism, and they can be anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-Christianity. They can be extremists on gender and race, which can mean basically any leftist. Trump at his speech at Mount Rushmore talked about how we have to vanquish communism and how the communist menace is coming for us. And then recently the State Department tried to link U.S. leftists to Cuba, which they called essentially a terrorist organization, just copy-pasting from the 1950s, to say that certain individuals on the political left and organizations are working with Cuba, which they call a threat to the U.S. I would call a threat to capitalism just because it exists as a communist country in spite of all odds right off of the shores of the world's capitalist superpower, and that is a humiliation for the United States. And so leftists in this country bear the brunt. The Cuba report named a bunch of targets for the administration. Some that make no sense to me, like Karen Bass, who is not a barn-burning leftist or socialist or anything close to that, the mayor of LA, but also Maxine Waters as well. This document seemed to have a particular fixation on black women. Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley as well included. The administration shares that fixation, that racist fixation, but it also included groups like Code Pink, Black Lives Matter, PSL, the Democratic Socialists of America, Antifa, which isn't a formal group, but is an anti-fascist movement, and then familiar names like Hassan Piker, Zohran Mamdani, Amy Goodman, and including George Floyd in that, essentially to say that he was in coordination, posthumously saying he was essentially a domestic terrorist. It's astonishingly racist. It's astonishingly troubling in terms of what it could mean for their anti-democratic efforts ahead of these midterms because they don't have public opinion on their side. The Republicans are already a minoritarian party in its construct, and Trump has shown a proclivity for using anti-democratic repressive means when he's unable to get his way. And so Stephen Miller went on Sean Hannity's show last night to talk about DSA in particular, which I think is going to be an increasingly central focus because of the success DSA has had. Here they are talking about DSA and what a threat they are, and keep all the context that I just laid out for you in mind, because this is not a laughing matter.
Let me have a different point of view. The very survival of freedom, liberty, humanity, your family, your children, your future depends on ensuring that we do not allow communism to take hold in America. And that's why President Trump has courageously and necessarily framed this upcoming election around keeping communists out of power. Because if they gain power, then you, the American people, will lose everything.
I know I've said this in the past, but it's never been this bad. All right, Grandpa Bernie and AOC. AOC now leading in that New Hampshire poll as a leading candidate for 2028. That make you very happy, make me very happy. I'm fine with that. You have El Sayed, this nut that replaced Graham Plattner, his chosen replacement is almost as nutty as he is. You got cisgender Tellerico, got his non-binary, and championing the rights.
The Christian who hates Christianity.
Very popular in Texas. Okay, then you got AOC, the squad.
Steve, you look like a demon.
Yeah. Also, pause it for a second. The Christian who hates Christianity. Like, is that going to work? Can they decide on a tactic if he's transgender or if he's a Christian? Isn't he a pastor or a preacher or somebody? He's ordained, a minister? All right, but I don't even think Stephen Miller is Christian, by the way. I believe that he is a Jewish scientist himself. But okay, lecture everybody else on who gets to be a religious person in their chosen faith.
AOC, the squad, Mamdani, and no Democrat but John Fetterman, and I give him props every night, will even dare challenge the insanity that now dominates that party. They have 35 DSA candidates running this midterm.
Yes, and all the recent primaries that have been contested in the Democratic Party have been won by socialists and communists. And to your point, minus Fetterman, not a single leader in the Democrat Party has been willing to condemn the Democrat Socialists of America, again, who represent an ideology that in the last century killed tens of millions of people. You have prominent Democratic opinion makers, spokespeople who are praising Mao. These are people.
Wait, you don't have that.
So can you pause it for a sec? I love that because that's not true. He's referring to Hassan there because of Hassan's suit, which seems to have broken the brains of so many people over on Fox News. I don't understand. I mean, these are the same people that lost their mind when Obama wore a tan suit. So I guess Hassan with the high collar is really breaking their brains.
I did predict this.
But let's continue.
Very popular in the Democratic Party. But that just underscores, Sean, the people you mentioned, the names you mentioned, AOC, Bernie, the squad, Omar, these are people who even 10 or 15 years ago would have been relegated to the outer extreme fringes of the Democrat Party. They're now the center of the party, they're the heart of the party, they're the soul of the party. So
I feel like I've been making predictions about how everything would play out in the media. I feel like my predictions over the past year-ish or maybe a little longer have been pretty good. I feel like everything, I think this is a segment that I would have exactly predicted, right? Is you have these insane commies who are being represented by Fox News as being the center of the party. Now they're running onto the Fox News platform to give interviews and stuff and to talk about how cool it would be to abolish all the police. You've got the other lefty types playing these interviews to build credit for themselves. They're totally fine with being characterized this way because it helps them in their ultra blue places. And the only people that get fucked at the end of the day for all of this is just all the moderate Dems getting fucked by both ends.
Democrats have become a party of freaks, weirdos, losers, and crazies. But you can't laugh it off because it's deadly serious. When you give these people power, everything you know and love in this world falls apart. You have chaos, corruption, decay, violence, poverty.
That's you. There we go. So projection and every accusation is a confession. It's one of the tactics that they use most effectively, and Stephen Miller is the most shameless in doing so.
I mean, he's a hysterical fascist.
Down to the freaks and losers, which is exactly what was deployed against them in the 2024 cycle, and it's a lot more accurate when you see that spittling Nazi on television. But
this idea that you're free to come free freedoms, this guy has feds occupying the streets, pulling guns on people and shooting them in the streets.
That is true.
With their vehicle
Stephen Miller
ICE
is
officer.
He
said that Kamala Harris was going to support wars,
in
and
the
there's no way
country.
Trump just wants to end them. And he's had no reflection on that because he is a demonic foot soldier for white supremacy.
Yeah, and we said this before. sure that these tactics are going to be increasingly deployed as they lose their grip on power and public opinion. And they have the ability to use their ICE Gestapo to terrorize people at polling stations if they have a willing governor. And I worry a lot about that Texas race. I worry about other states that have Republican governors in control. And the fact that they keep mentioning DSA here and they see DSA as a threat should probably be instructive, because while they're not speaking about it in these fascistic terms, the Democratic establishment has had a similar response to the DSA threat in a way that they haven't had for the fascist one. So it begs the question, where do liberals stand here? There will be some liberals that come to the right side and want Democrats to win. But in terms of moneyed institutions, the Democratic National Committee is in debt right now, as the Republicans have over $130 million in cash on hand, plus Trump's super PAC hasn't spent a dime in these primaries and is sitting on $400 million. The Democrats are so desperate for that corporate cash that they will throw leftists under the bus regardless of what it means for the future of the country, because the institutions that prop up those same Democrats are the ones that are just more enthusiastic about Republicans. It's a rotten institution and it's weak in its construct by design. And so you have to ask yourself, where have you seen the Democrats fight harder than in primaries against Bernie Sanders, in primaries against AOC? So Stephen Miller is unfortunately wrong. The Democrats are eschewing this exciting popular.
It's just so crazy to watch. And then like the Pisco hand-wringing and everything, it's just we can't be mean, we have to come together or whatever. And you're just like watching the gangbang happening in real time. It's just so fucking crazy.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.